Thank you so much, Aisha. Another round of applause for her. For now, bear with me. Probably you're tired of seeing me, but I'll be leaving the stage anytime from now. So right about now, we're going to listen in from one of our key partners as well. They've been very instrumental in supporting both host and nationals in the country through the Rebuild project. And right now, allow me invite Mr. Gerard Lee, the program manager of the Rebuild project. Welcome, sir.
Good morning, everyone. Allow me to remove this so that I can comfortably speak. On behalf of IRSC, and specifically on behalf of Rebuild, we are extremely delighted and profoundly honored to speak to great entrepreneurs like you. And I want to recognize all the entrepreneurs in the house, specifically women entrepreneurs, that you're a great asset to this nation. I will take you through a simple presentation. I'm going to speak about Rebuild. Rebuild is a project being implemented by International Rescue Committee, has a lead implementer, and it's a project being funded by IKEA Foundation. It's being implemented in the two cities of Nairobi and Kampala. IRSC supports people whose lives and livelihoods have been shattered by disasters and other economic challenges across the globe. We operate in over 40 countries in the world, and Uganda is one of them, where we are supporting a huge number of refugees across different sectors. But I want to limit my conversation with you specifically to Rebuild. Rebuild started in January 2020, which preceded a co-design phase in 2020, but the actual implementation started in 2021, preceding a co-design phase in 2020. Now, when we were coming up with this, we wanted to design a project that is based on evidence, that is more informative, and that will create impact. And that co-design phase is what gave birth to what we are calling now Rebuild, which eventually started in January 2021. Rebuild is being funded by CARE Foundation. As I said, it's a 30 million euro investment for the two East African cities. And Uganda specifically is taking the 10 million euros to support 10,000 refugees in Uganda, while the 10,000 is being supported across the border, that is Nairobi. And we are looking at supporting in total 20,000 people. So specifically for Kampala, we are operating in the divisions of Makindye, Rubaga, and then Central. Those are the areas where we're operating in. And we're talking about women today. Rebuild has made a considerable effort to ensure that women benefit from this project. We are considering 60% of the total beneficiaries, whom we constantly refer to as clients, to be 60%. And out of this 60%, youth will be the dominant category within the 60%. So it still ties to the agenda that we are pushing today. But also, we are looking at supporting refugees and hosts in the same percentage of 60% refugees and then 40% hosts. We've exceeded the mark that has been, advocated for by REHOPE, which is 30-70. So that is also one of the uniqueness of Rebuild that came along in this intervention. Okay. Now, Rebuild has 3 pillars. And the 3 core pillars are what we're going to talk about. The first pillar of Rebuild is service provision. We want to deliver a market-based improvement services, and service provision acts as a foundation for all these interventions, where we're going to see a lot of activities done through local partners and other stakeholders. And at some point, you'll hear from some of them who are here. Quite a number of them are in the house, and they're doing tremendous job out there. So we'll be relying on them alongside ourselves as IRSC to implement this project. So this will be country-based here, and also will be country-based in Nairobi. So I'll focus more in Uganda, not necessarily in Nairobi. So most of my conversation will be focusing on Uganda. So the main pillar of this is the service provision. Then the other second pillar that we are looking at is the evidence and learning. We are looking at gathering evidence and learning to demonstrate what works. And we are using different methods. We want to carry out different research, we want to carry out different surveys, and we want to implement and pilot many things to see what works and what does not work. What works, we will share with you, and we will improve and we'll scale it up. What does not work, we want to drop it and say, no, guys, this one is not working out, and we cannot proceed with it. But the main thing here is to share the learnings that will come from such. And a key thing that we are doing there is the RCT. Now, for those who are familiar with that, RCT is randomized control trials. I guess when COVID came, most of you had and were concerned about why are we struggling to get vaccine. It is now a year. That was then. We've not yet gotten COVID vaccine. It was going through such trials. I'm just trying to use that analogy to explain so that we understand what RCT is. Now, before any vaccine is thrown out there, it is tested. How it is tested is that sometimes it's done through animals. Others even use the rats that we've seen. We've seen people procuring rats, and you keep wondering, why? How can a rat cost 800,000? How can a rat cost 1 million shillings? Those are special rats, and they're used in the laboratories to test if that vaccine will work. So in business as well, we are using that sort of approach. We want to try different business development services, and within the different business development services that we're going to try, we're going to look at a combination of them. The combination will include mentoring, business grant support, and an additional support that will come through trainings alongside the general support that we're giving. So we want to see the impact of this support, and we are going to have a set of people who will be subjected to this kind of research. Then there will be a blind side that will not know, so that we're able to draw some lessons from this. And apparently, we are already doing, when we get along, we're going to see how far we've gone with that. Then, under influence and adoption, we also want to influence policies and practices along national, regional, and global level by adapting what we've generated, and we've seen that it's working. And we want to tackle that through different partners, and we have partners who are supporting us in terms of pushing up this agenda. We have different stakeholders who we are working with to push this agenda. And I'm glad that we are speaking on a forum like this, because at some point we would want to see members who are here also trying to highlight the agenda which has been generated from Rebuild implementation, especially next year. So we want you to partner with us to push the agenda that will have come out of our implementation. Now, this is our theories of change. And I don't want to speak through this, but I want to go deeper into the detail. But the main thing that I wanted us to understand is the goal of Rebuild project. Rebuild is looking at ensuring that refugees and vulnerable host communities in Nairobi and Kampala achieve economic self-reliance. The moment we talk about economic self-reliance, entrepreneurs come first. You are the guys who are making the self-reliance within this city active. If you look at the statistics of employment, you'll find that private sector employs much, much more than the government sectors, or what we call the public sectors. And it can never happen successfully without your intervention. And that is why on a summit like this, we are very excited to see your contributions. And I wanted us to clap for ourselves, especially those of us who are contributing to the employment of this nation. Now we have priority outcomes. We want to ensure that people are employed. We want to ensure that people are self-employed. Those are two different things. People employed, we are looking at people who get into the formal employment. We want to build the capacity of people to get into the formal employment, and when we get done, we're going to see how that is happening. But also people are self-employed. We're looking at people like you who are entrepreneurs. They're creating employment, but they're also employed themselves within the different sectors and spaces that they're operating in. And that is what excites us about Rebuild and about partners who are here. I heard Patrick mention this, and it's encouraging that we are working on the same space to achieve that specific outcome. Then we are also looking at people managing financial risk. And we are doing that as well through different areas of services. And we also want to ensure that local economy is strengthened and also community have access to equitable services. And all this we are working with different partners to ensure that we achieve this. The rest of the things that you see there are the activities that Rebuild will be offering to the different clients, or what you may refer to as beneficiaries. What are our accomplishments up to date? Under the priority of people have sustainable livelihoods, we are going to do bundle services for the next 5 years. And I want to say that within this year, within year one, that is last year up to date, we've offered combined support, including business skills and financial capital and support to the mentors. Through the RCT. We are trying to test the modules of how this RCT will work. We've engaged 30 mentors and 94 mentees within our pilot. So this is a pilot project, especially under the research. So it has a component of both implementation and then a component of research. So now what we will determine under the research is what will explain what we may scale up, and what will not work, we will certainly not continue with it. We are yet to launch now the real full RCT in this year by May 2022. That will see huge numbers of clients taking part in this. Then we have what we are calling bundle services for apprenticeship or on-the-job training. We are looking at supporting prioritized value chains, and according to us, one of the key priority value chains that we've chosen through the support of the Open Capital Advisors is the clothing and textiles, and the second that followed was transport and logistics. But our priority for this period, we are giving to value chains. And under the value chains, we are supporting 30 clients, especially refugees, to go through all the processes within the value chain. And one of the partners we are engaging to do this is the Fine Spinners, where we are going to place clients so that they can support them. So Fine Spinners is our anchor partner, and by end of this year, we want to pilot with the 60 people and want to see what will be the outcome. But they're also not only stopping there, they are already supporting some of the refugee businesses. The idea is we want to integrate refugees into the clothing and textile value chains, especially in Uganda. And that is one of the things that we want to do through apprenticeships, through trainings, so that they're able to get hands-on skills, but also able to get employment at the end of the period. So that is what we're going to pilot. So that specific unit is just a pilot, but also we are supporting women to enter male-dominated sectors. We've heard from Patrick, the percentage of female who took up the opportunity initially was very low. And that is the same challenge we're facing as Rebuild. So we want to encourage women to join male-dominated sectors. This is not just a dream. It is based on evidence that most of such sectors have opportunities, but women are not taking it up. We want to see people do plumbing, we want to see women do painting, we want to see women do engineering, we want to see women do such jobs that people think it's purely for male, and we have very special support towards such interventions. So what I want to mention here is that for the ladies inside the house here, just be encouraged, keep reaching out to women and encourage them, because Rebuild will stand with them. That is the promise I want to make here. And through our different avenues of registration, we will link up and we do that so that women can join. Apparently, we so far have only 20 women who have expressed interest in the different sectors where we assume to be male-dominated. And we're yet to place them and see how they will prolong that journey. But it is our interest that if they can move and we see the impact that the project will create in their lives, that would be very exciting for all of us. Then we're also doing apprenticeship, and apparently we've placed 32 clients, and out of the 32 clients, this time around it's good, 31 are female and only 1 male. And we continue to link them to private sector. And some of you who are here who think they can support in that intervention, we can as well link up so that we talk about this apprenticeship model. We need many partners who will be hand-holding the youth. There are those who even have experience in other professional areas. We want you to come up so that we put you under apprenticeship. We will also support you with the soft skills. There are people who are knowledgeable in other areas, but they lack the soft skills. We want to ensure that we've supported them, and we're starting that specific piece as well in May. So we are also placing people to vocational training institutions. And the beauty with the Rebuild is we give you the service that you've requested for. And you might be wondering, why are we not doing it ourselves? The idea of Rebuild is that we want to be a market enabler, not a market actor. So our intervention focuses mainly on strengthening the market and creating an enabling environment for the people we are supporting. And that is why we're using the different vocational training institutions and other institutions to support the youth and also other people. But greatest percentage that we are targeting in this project should be age 18 to 35, and then the rest can fall in that category. We are also doing skill certification. We are aware that sometimes we have refugees who come from their different countries of origin, and they have these professional qualifications, but they've never been certified. If they go to look for employment, they will tell them, no, we can't understand your papers. So it has to be translated, it has to be accredited. But also, there's a category that has been practicing their skills. For example, you find somebody has been in the garage for the last 10 years, but this person does not have any paper to show. We also want to do that skill certification through the Directorate of Industrial Training, but the other accreditation, we are doing it through different institutions like National Council for Higher Education and also UNEB, so that you're able to get a required paper that can enable you to get employment opportunities. So what we're trying to do here is want to unlock employment opportunities that could have been blocked by just simple paper, and the knowledge, the skills are there. So that is what we are doing under skill certification. And apparently, we've only have so far 13 clients who have expressed interest in this. So that means most people are either not aware or they're aware, but they're not very sure. So if you have such people within your different communities, let us know through our different avenues so that we can support them. And we're not restricting only to refugees. It's for both refugees and host community. We don't segregate any of those. Then we are also trying to do some sort of managing the financial risk. And how are we doing this? One of the interventions that we are doing is we are supporting the groups through USLAs. Now, people in Kampala said they don't want to be called Village Savings and Loans Association. They said they want to be called Urban Savings and Loans Association. Now, that is why we are calling it USLAs. But the principles are the same, and we've supported apparently 9 of them, that is specifically IRSC, but our target is more. So we've supported 9 of them with different training kits. So they will be given also financial literacy, and we'll also give them seed capital so that they can improve on their their financial management processes, and they will also be supporting members within the different groups to grow from one level to the other. But the main important thing is that we're going to link them to different financial institutions so that they can have access to more finance, but they can also gain skills of how to operate in the fluid spaces of entrepreneurship. And then the other bit is what we're calling the Loan Guarantee Fund. Apparently, we're working with the Open Capital Advisors to develop a model where we can do a guarantee. So the model has been designed, and we are yet to also pilot it. And once that comes through, we will also let you know. But the focus right now is still designing. And the stage we are at, we've already done financial landscaping with different financial institutions. They are finalizing how this should be operationalized. So once that gets done, we'll also let you know. So keep your ears alert for this particular piece of the Loan Guarantee Fund. Now, the other service that we are offering is we want to ensure that refugees enter the different value chains. I've already mentioned that. But also we are doing what we're calling the wraparound services. We are aware that sometimes these guys we're supporting may have challenges with the protection, but also there are times specifically for mothers, they may not have access to nannies, so we want to offer childcare support, especially to mothers who may want to participate in our services. And that is one critical thing that I think ties to this theme that we would want ladies in the house here to know that IRSC, and specifically Rebuild, is very concerned about the mothers. So don't shun away from accessing the service because you have a child. And this we are targeting mothers with the children 5 years below. So if you have them, encourage them to register for the different support, because we'll offer, especially for the first 3 months as they enroll for a particular program. And this will be specifically for people who have registered to enroll for a particular service of their choice. It will not be for people who are not within the different service. It will be for people who have already expressed interest and have been registered for the different services. But also in case they have any protection need, any legal issues, any business advisory services, we will offer such. Then I want to comfortably say that we offered a multi-purpose cash assistance already. This was meant to help people build up from the shock that they went through during COVID. And we were giving each beneficiary about 1.8 million shillings in 3 installments. So we've supported 150 clients, as you can see, to benefit from that. And that was only meant for year 1. In subsequent years, we are not going to do that, but we'll continue with the rest of the other services. And we're also looking at engaging the different community structures, especially the LCs, what we are now calling the Urban Development Councils. Now, we used to call them local government councils, but they also don't want to be called the local government, the LCs. So we are calling them the Urban Development Councils, and we've mapped out 10 of them within the different areas where we're operating, and we're going to build their capacity, we're going to support them so that they are able to plan and come up with a very good development agenda for their communities. But we also wanted refugees to be integrated within those committees. And apparently the groups we've discussed with, we've found that refugees are integrated within, and we're going to build the capacity. And we also want to build the capacities of the RLOs, or the refugee-led organizations, so that they can have access to financial institutions, but also they should be able to stand alone at some point through the different support. They should be able to pitch a proposal for funding, and that is what Rebuild is really focusing on, so that even when we are not there, these institutions or these CBOs can still operate within the spaces comfortably. These are the partners we have as I come towards winding up. We have the categories that you're looking on the display. We have the KCCA under the government and then the OPM. We have Raising Abdu Foundation. I am sure Sarah will be talking about something here. We have Relon. We have Makasi Rescue Foundation. We have Platform for Vendors in Uganda. Now, the first three are focusing on service delivery, the first pillar which I mentioned. And then the last one is focusing on influence and adoption. They will be pushing out the agendas. They will be pushing out policy issues and sensitization within the different localities where we'll be operating at. Then we have the private sector actors, the VTIs, the apprenticeship hosts, the financial institutions, and then open capital advisors. These are people who are supporting us in coming up with different surveys and then also piloting the models under the value chain and then the loan guarantee. But we also, above all, have UNHCR, our partner, whom we work with very closely in the humanitarian sector. So our main challenge or apparent collaboration needs that we want is, we want to see that we include the registration of clients. Apparently, we've only registered 729 clients, and yet we need 10,000. So that calls for your intervention and your support so that we can hype up this. Then we registered low turn-up of certification and accreditation, sorry for the typos. And then we also want to encourage women to join male-dominated sectors, as I mentioned before. But also we want to support the green energy bit. So all those services are things that we want to create an enabling environment for. Finally, as I conclude, I want to say that entrepreneurship is a very lonely route, but Rebuild will not leave you alone. We want to work with you through the different areas of services, through mentorship, and through other business skills training that will be embedded depending on whichever route you take within our different service tracks. I want to pause here, but we can interact more after. Thank you so much for listening.
I'm not good at cracking jokes, so just so that you're not tired of Bob's face anymore, I'm now the co-host. Thank you very much, Gerald, for such an extensive presentation. The work you're doing is commendable, and at this point, I'll invite the audience to give him a big round of applause. Without further ado, it is my honor and pleasure to invite Richard Zulu, the lead at Outbox and the EA anchor partner for Uganda. Thank you very much.
Good morning to you all. Thanks for joining us very early this morning. Many of you kept time as we celebrate with the EA community under the theme Women, Affordable Financing and Sustainable Businesses. My role is to kind of get us thinking about what comes next. That's the panel discussion. And our interest really is to hear your feedback, your thoughts around how best we can support women entrepreneurs. I want to thank, our partners, the International Trade Center, NSSF, together with MasterCard Foundation, IRC through the Rebuild Initiative, and our speakers today from different organizations that include FSDU and many others for creating the time to join us. I'm not going to present anything, but I'm going to try and speak from my experience and what I know. We've been around for the last 10 years. We're celebrating 10 years in June. So for us, that's really exciting as an organization that works to support young people in terms of getting access to work opportunities. And over the last 10 years, when we started, there was hardly anything to speak about when it came to supporting women. I recall the very first initiative we ran with women was supported by Google, and it was called Hash 40 Forward. Hash 40 Forward because there were 40 organizations all around the world through that initiative supporting women entrepreneurs. And the very first initiative we did was in partnership with an organization called ThoughtWorks. ThoughtWorks is this big international organization that's into consulting, but largely software consulting. So we had a training program that was split into 2 tracks for women who want to pursue business skills and women who want to pursue technology skills. Then thereafter, those who were pursuing specializations in building careers in technology were then linked to ThoughtWorks for an internship. Now, out of the 10 women we were able to link, we trained about 70 of them, 10 stayed for an internship, 5 of them went forward to work with ThoughtWorks. So for me, that was a great achievement and testimony that if we are very deliberate about how we try to support women, most especially those who are trying to start careers in technology, those who are trying to support businesses, that would definitely have some impact. So as I speak, ThoughtWorks left Uganda, but it moved most of its employees to their other offices. You know, that's just one of the initiatives, but we have another skilling initiative called Outbox EDU, where we offer scholarships to women in business. We've done that for small businesses, where we've equipped them with digital skills so that they can have more resilient enterprises using digital skills. But, you know, based off what Patrick presented, we have very many initiatives around entrepreneurship support. And I must tell you, we have very high targets in terms of supporting women, from 50% to 70%. And this is where our pain is, right? We're slowly getting there, but it's a struggle because we need to move faster. For instance, the initiative that Patrick presented in the morning, the NSSF High Innovator Initiative. You've taken 27 businesses through that initiative, but only 39% are providing, but only in terms of the percentage of representation of either founders, young people that are employed or supporting in the supply chain, only 39% are women, direct jobs, right? So that's a very, very serious challenge that we have. When we were starting, we said, how best can we get women involved when we were starting this initiative with NSSF? So we took a road trip, I don't want to say it, but a road show through very many different communities all over Uganda, trying to interact with district representatives, the youth, and women groups. And one of the things that came out was because of the nature of businesses we were looking for. At the time when we launched, we were looking for agribusinesses. Now, there were very few women in agribusiness as women founders. And what did we hear? It's not attractive enough. We're like, okay, the women we found were outside the youth bracket. Many of them were outside the youth bracket running these agribusinesses. The youth were not running those. We're like, okay, we are looking for high growth enterprises. A high growth enterprise is one that demonstrates potential to grow. There are segments of businesses, right? There are the micro, then there are those that have high growth, which you would call startups or small and growing businesses. Then you have the medium enterprises. So the women were not running those types of businesses that we found, right? They were running very, very small businesses in their communities. We're like, okay, then what else did we hear when we set out? The communities were telling us that if you really want to get women, these are some of the things you could do. You should take a household approach in terms of trying to get more women to participate, start businesses, or even come out and participate in such initiatives. A household approach is where, as I'm engaging the woman, I have to make sure I'm engaging the whole household in why it's critical for this woman to be in business. That includes the husband and any other relatives who have a say in terms of decision making in that family. So like, okay, household approach is something we should try. And secondly, how do we utilize role models, women role models, in terms of getting women to start businesses that are high growth, not micro. So one of the things we've seen is there are more women in the supply chain. Of the 27 businesses, you find many of them in the supply chain as farmers and whatnot, but very few of them are actually founders. So I want to leave you with that question of how do we get more women in business? How do we get more women coming up to be supported in terms of accessing financing, right? That's the key question we have, because I have a target. I have to run a women cohort very soon of supporting 100 businesses. And the key question is, how do we get more women coming up, standing up, and actually being supported? So that how do we move on from here is what I hope we can discuss, give practical examples in terms of how do we support more women business, largely high growth potential businesses is where we are interested. So there's the livelihoods, yes, that is important, but if we are to unlock opportunities for our young people, we have to have a mindset of scale, we have to have a mindset of growth, thinking big, and I believe as women in our communities, we can do it. So when I look at the businesses behind, like, Alosha Organics, Kasana Foods, I saw Asali Wamoyo, Aza Naturals, Gen Organics. I know Equator Commercial is already being supported by us. And these are some of the businesses we can link to the deal flow facility, For us, that gives us hope, because those are the types of businesses we want to see that are looking to grow and actually expand their footprint. So with that being said, I hope you enjoy the panel discussion that will happen later on. Please give us ideas, please give us your views in terms of how can we make financing more accessible for women entrepreneurs, how can we get more women entrepreneurs. If we are looking to support women entrepreneurs, where should we look? Maybe agribusiness was the wrong sector, but we were being told it creates the most jobs, it employs the most youth, right? So what aren't we doing right? That's the question I would want to leave with you all. So with that, I think the break is ready. Aisha, when should we come back? I think she'll come and let us know before we move on. So thank you very much and enjoy the rest of the morning.
Thank you very much, Richard. Can we give him another round of applause? I know our test buds are tickling already, but I just want to re-echo Richard's question. How do we have more women businesses on board? And I hope as you're taking a bite, sipping coffee, you have that question internalizing, and we have some ideas and suggestions to be put forward. So at this point, I think we're all excited. Like I said, our test buds must be tickling. First of all, I want to commend you for keeping time. Yeah, it's very rare to come to a room and it's full house within the stipulated time. So give yourselves either a tap or a snap. Thank you. So just to bring to your attention, we have people exhibiting at the back. So as you're taking your coffee and bite, please make sure to walk around the stalls, support an entrepreneur, look at the products, see ways to collaborate, but most importantly, network, right? So just to your right, it's where our tea is being served, and we want to have a working tea. So max will have 20 minutes for the break, and then we'll come back and have the panel discussion. Thank you very much, and enjoy your breakfast.
Recording stopped.
We can start moving.
I'm too addicted to Hollywood City. Tally con expiry date. Uli kasera njagala mbeweni. Jangu. Come a little bit closer, baby. Sembera. Wameza nechecho. Sita kuveyo. Chakala kuveno. Ntekeyo. Awo. Sita kuveyo. Chakala kuveno. Ntekeyo. Oyo, oyo. The way you dance, girl, give a man fever. Got your body, but you make a man shiver. Bad girl, make a man fever. Got your body, but you make Mr. Lover, lover. And I say I don't get my holla. Anyhow you like, I could do my deal. As long as you know cause palapa. Promising you gon' treat me well. Give me the love and no be kiss and tell. No be say that I whine and no well. Boyo, boyo. Oh, boyo, boyo. Oh, yeah. The way you dance, girl, give a man feel. Now your body, but you make a man shiver. Bad girl, bad girl. Panicking and put to love. Only when pull up, I can know if I want. panicking and put to love. But when cool love, I can't know if I were. Tell me now, love panic can't know if I were. Emi mi do te kute, nemi my baby just see it. Kabi take attention to say. Kubanga wali wonse chengamba, wali wenchi buzo bambi chembuza. Why start to lose control every time that you come around? Panicking and put to love. When you pull up, I can't know my word. Tell me now, love panic can't know if I were. Panicking and put to love. When you pull up, I can't know if I were. Tell me now, love panic can't know if I were. He say, let me keep your secret, yeah. Deepest of my heart is the safest place, so yeah. Baby, turn to me and say, hey. Girl, I love your body. I panic when I see your body. I admire my baby's body. Hey, yeah. Baby, when you turn up on my baby, umutima kuba kukubanyo. You're the one that I keep hoping. Everywhere you go, I go follow. Panicking and put to lie. But when cool love, I can't know if I were. Tell me now, love panic and know if I were. Panicking and put to lie. But when cool love, I can't know if I were. Tell me now, love panic and know if I were. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Chitingo bango to say, ebila eulange, onda virenyo viola, timutu minde bambi, omuwe nakafanani. Ako bambi ala venga ko viola venga mumeme nange muvenga mumeme alina kabiri viola akayo yo bambi okoko sakayindo akalalo ko sweetie wenze jukira erinyalye okulyogera mpomelwa cause in the corner sani cause kali taina kadalasini kwagala okutuuka ku mwezi zikiriza mbeera sekali nga nkukuma nakasale maidali kyesimanyi kole risachi emisuwe ninemekamulirako osiba mulinga wekirisa akanyama kamyufu ku kyoto ukaliriro kyusa wondya amaso gali kukwe zitukamisi wompita zakala tukatiwenga yeze poitatia walivuga kakali nangediba kalia zakala tukatiwenga yeze poitatia akachapambalasi umugongo wekusiwa kusiga obugalo babuguma mukuwanika waziwa nkutakula nyumisiza bulamu nange teka mupulani nange senalina kuwalabu naye kufesiyo exceptional engeri jonkwata eri so professional amaso gandi kukwe kitukamisinde wompita yagala tukatiwenga yenze kuitatia uwe wolivuga kagali kalia verende zagala tukatiwenga yenze kuitatia tugende mu chachi ofuke my baby wetulokakane you're the one that I've been looking for tugende mu chachi ofuke my baby wetulokakane you're the one that I've been looking for kankube mpeta tongana sisabutambira ngomwana lavu ya fedala yakusabira tubenga tetwawukana bina byenina kwabisana I want you more than that I wanna be the father abana babubuzaza tugende mu chachi ofuke my baby wetulokakane you're the one that I've been looking for tugende mu chachi ofuke my baby wetulokakane you're the one that I've been looking for tugende mu chachi ofuke my baby wetulokakane you're the one that I've been looking for tugende mu chachi ofuke my baby wetulokakane you're the one oh love 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 one what if I couldn't speak? What if I couldn't eat? What if I couldn't move? Will you still love me? What if my body aches and always it makes you late? What if I couldn't wait? Would you love me when it's hard and the lights falling apart? If the things that we was new are long gone, if the blue skies are so gray and the memory fades away, and the memory fades away. Will you still love me? Would you love me when it's hard and the life's falling apart? If the things that we was new are long gone, if the blue sky starts to gray and the memory fades away, and the memory fades away, will you still love me? Will you still love me? Will you still love me? Bad girl, you are nice. Ontate mukasunda basi. Oli wa bei, toli wa lais. Kulete Gucci over Versace. Oli quality, toli muchumpuni tuba over China. Kasusukali quality. Wabulon chamula. Wakala nyoela undi mumusai. Wanta muzalu jigere kukagali. Olusi tunanene muzatino sani. You brighten my day. Ulilo chamula chamula mukwano inside. You come my way. Ulilo sembera ulilo inside. So let me wire away. Sakala kumanya manings alright. Tone unyanzo kukwakale nyokuwa kuchanga changa na kukusalale. No lose tula nene uzazani. Ayakalo mulunjinga kwe. Engelechi watu chucho wechikonda. Neva zakatonde ea kutonda. You brighten my day. Ulilo tambula uchamula mukwando inside. You come my way. Ulilo sembera puli. It's alright. Let me wire away. Sakala kumanya mali, it's alright. Njagala nnyo okubeerawo w'oli, n'obeerawo omutima gubeeyo gy'oli. Njagala nnyo okubeerawo w'oli, n'obeerawo omutima gubeeyo gy'oli. Mpagadde ne nga munoonya. Sirina sanyusa ng'omwana atoba amunyikaavu buli kiseera, n'omutima tegweyagala, naye okuva we namufuna yansula ku mwoyo, okuva we namulaba njagala nnyo okubeerawo w'oli, n'obeerawo omutima gubeeyo gy'oli. Njagala nnyo okubeerawo w'oli, n'obeerawo omutima gubeeyo gy'oli. Atoba, me, Atoba, oh love, Atoba. Na ye, kufa wena mufuna, nyasula kumoyo, kufa wena mulaba, kwesanyo lyange. Sakala nyo okubera wowoni nobera womutima gube jodi Sakala nyo okubera wowoni nobera womutima gube jodi Baby tokufula muse Yonko la visa za mise Wakanjagala Nake agala Wante kamumbera Wongana sisobola kuchebera Afasad inkuloka Insenkuloka Baby tongan ankuloka Afazal inkuloka Insenkuloka Baby tongan ankuloka Etakolian linal ya mususa Ninga edilisa mususa Wakalama kecha chuchusa Tewe changa changa baby tula Sakala tusine mutakot Sakala tusine mutakot Tula wasibera hambo Ochimanyete bangana Afasari kuloka Inse kuloka Baby tongana kuloka Kuloka, Afazal inkuloka, Senkuloka, baby tongana. I don't drink coffee, I take tea, my dear. I like my bed done one by side. You can hear it in my accent when I talk. I'm an Englishman in New York. See me walking down the Fifth Avenue. I'm walking cranny by my side. I take it everywhere I walk. I'm an Englishman in New York. Oh, I'm an alien. I'm a legal alien. I'm an Englishman in New York. I'm an alien. I'm a legal alien. I'm an Englishman in New York. Just a little tenderness at the end of the day. So long woman need to take her fears away. Hey, no, no, no. Oh, I love you, I love you, I love you, no. Cold, cold, the words so cold. Me want someone, me have and feel whole. Batumbara borone se ere sinara rambo. Batumbara borone se ere sinara rambo. Toddy, what shall we do? Send the jar. Toddy, what shall we do? In the jar. Jerome, I want you to love me. Jerome, baby. Jerome. Kill out there, oh. Why you know they call me? Kill out there, baby. Kill out there, Jerome. I take if you're sick and now. Why you know they call me, oh. I give a green light to tire. I think if you're sick and know why you know they call me up. I give a red light to tire. So Jaro, baby, take my number. Call me later. Me, I want to be your lover. Call me later.
Hello, wherever you are, we are inviting you to return and take your seats. Would like to resume our mid-morning session. Wherever you are,
Recording in
please
progress.
return and take your seats.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you back from a tea break. I hope you used the opportunity to get to know someone else, get to interact, and build your network as it is. And I hope you managed to walk through the display table and got a chance to see what the entrepreneurs have to offer. For all of us in this room, we may not directly be entrepreneurs, but somehow I think there's a bit of mumbling going around. Are we still having tea break? Hello? Usually, when people are breaking off for tea, it's quite faster, but settling back in is a hassle. I'd love to ask that, we get back into the room and, get fused in. And because at this point, one thing that sets us apart as entrepreneurs is how well we're able to tell our story. Like I said earlier, within this room, there's a fresh breath of budding young entrepreneurs. Throughout the pandemic, it's quite evident that a lot of businesses closed down, others laid off employees, others downsized, some went online, and a lot of those challenges, caught us unaware. But here we are, some are still in business, new businesses emerged, but listening into the resilience that these entrepreneurs have exhibited is something that is very exciting. We have 4 key spotlight speakers, and at this point, allow me invite Cyrus Chigundu, who is the founder of Chibaju Enterprises. Cyrus, the floor is yours. We could give him a round of applause probably as he comes in. Thank you.
A good morning to everyone inside here. Allow me take this opportunity to appreciate the organizers, the Air Community, NSSF, Outbox, and all the ecosystem stakeholders inside here. My name is Chigundu Cyrus, preferably the Chibajo boy. My very interesting journey started on 22nd July 2002. Both my mom and my dad are ginger peasant farmers in Butambala. So there's some people wanted to take away our land. Okay. So there are some people wanted to take away our land. And then Daddy was someone to go to court. Someone who never went even to primary 1. So he decided to go to Kampala to look for a friend, so that a friend could get him a lawyer to go to Buwama Court, so that he could defend our land where he was growing ginger to support the family. Unfortunately, when he was crossing the road in Najanankumbi, he got knocked by a speeding taxi. And now the speeding taxi came back and knocked him for the second time, because there's a belief that when the person you've knocked dies, so you are not spending a lot, because there is no medical expenses you are going to be paying, and for the family, this person is dead. So he knocked him for the second time, and then he saw that Dad had still more life. He came for the third time, and people who were around made an alarm, and then he ran away. After running away, people who were there took the dad to Mulago Hospital. I was just 7 years old. We were just listening to CBS FM, those announcements after the news at 9 a.m. in the morning, and we heard that if you know this man was brought by the good people in the hospital, you can come and take care of him. To make the story short, by the time the scans came back, all of his limbs were damaged, and you could not do any physical work anymore. This is a farmer who had never gone to school, who was depending on farming. Now the responsibility remained in the hands of my mom to take care of the 7 children. I'm the last born, and I'm the only one who made it up to high school. After doing numerous jobs on people's farms, brewing local beer, the Mwenge Bigede, selling namungodi, fried cassava, mandas, everything to get school fees to go to high school. But all along, my mom was also trying to grow more ginger, and she was enormously cheated by the middlemen. Let me tell you this. If you buy ginger from the supermarkets, for example, the biggest company in East Africa is Tropical Heat. Just 100 grams is over 7,000 UGX. And the farmer doesn't even get 0.5 USD in a full kilogram of ginger, which grows for a full year. It's a perennial crop. I think you can see the big gap between the farmer and the middleman who come and take ginger and sell to those big companies. Then, after reaching high school, I had no money to go to university. I thought about what can I do to support the parents who are disabled. And I started the first initiative, which was training people with disabilities, creative tailoring skills, to get money and take their children to school. I did a lot of entrepreneurship, and thank you so much. So I did a lot of humanitarian work to support people with disabilities and women. And from 2016 to 2020, and I received a lot of international recognitions, including being a fellow of the prestigious Mandela Washington Fellowship 2021. And after finishing the fellowship at Leha University, I decided to do another initiative now, which is supporting and changing the lives of ginger farmers in Butambala and the Greater Mpigi region. This is how it started. We started on 20th July last year, so we are just 7 months old in the market. And when I was starting, I was like, I need to start one of the most growing enterprise in the country. An enterprise which can grow even without receiving funding. An enterprise which can make over 20 million in the first year of inception. So I started Chibajo Enterprise on 20th July last year, and Chibajo simply means indigenous and pure ginger in Butambala. So the Butambala ginger farmers, for them, they don't say Ntanga with ginger. They say, Chibajo yabazo munundi guno. So it's like That, that's the way they refer to the indigenous breed of ginger. And I named the company Chibajo directed to connect to the farmers. And Chibajo is adding value to ginger into finished products. As I told you previous, that people who enjoy ginger, who have been in the supermarkets, they buy from Tropical Heat. And 500 grams of ginger would be going to over 35,000 UGX if you do the compound addition. And for people who have tested Chibajo inside here, for example, Aisha, the co-ambassador, can testify, Bobu, the moderator here can testify. Chibajo, what makes it different is 100% natural. We don't add anything. We don't add anything, not even preservatives. It's the indigenous breed, and it can preserve itself. So this is how we do it, the process. So currently we have over 10 farmers, ginger farmers, and we have over 40 women. So women are the ones who do the post-harvest management program. So it's done this way. After getting the ginger, the youths take it to the water sources and wash it clearly to remove the soil. And now we take it where the women are with their knives and start cutting ginger into pieces for easy drying. It takes over 15 days under normal sunshine to dry. And then we dry it under taprins, on the taprins. Because that's one of the challenges people in value addition face. Not managing the post-harvest program very well. You should consider all the processes using the healthy means and not allowing the dust interfere in the process. And after drying the ginger, now we transfer it to Chitemu, where we do the processing. Currently we have one machine which me and my team generated out of our savings and got it, which now turns the ginger into the powder form. And you hear me talking about the ginger. I'm not selling a service, I'm selling a product. Let me show you how the ginger looks like. So this is the ginger. I think when you see it, it might be, I think when you see it, it might look like it's, you know, it's in Carrefour, coming away from Kenya or coming from USA. So you have to have, like your product should be top notch. From the packaging, from the quality, from everywhere. We should stop being joking entrepreneurs. If we need to make products which go global. If we don't want to be building small businesses and we are building global brands. Yes. The dream was, I told you, to make 20 million in the first year. And let me tell you this, I made 1.2 million in the first 10 days of inception of this product. This means it's possible. It's possible. I've not made any application for funding. I promised myself I need to run this business for the first year from the savings of the team and to make sure that people love the product. After validating it, we've done registration just 1 month ago, and now, next month, we are going to start on the certification process of UNBS. You don't need to do the certification, the registration, before people loving the product. Take the product out there. When people love the product, now you can continue to spend your small money as a startup into certifications, which need a lot of money, even for, for us, people in third world countries, we are venture capitalists. Awaited like the coming of, the second coming of Jesus Christ. You get it? Yes. Yes, so as I told you, currently we employ over 40 women who do the cutting, and then the 10 youths who do the washing of the ginger, and now 3 people on the team. We are looking forward to get now more sales partners, but sales partners who don't constrain our working capital. Thank you. I saw that Sandra is one of the people coming here to talk. Thank you so much, Sandra. One of the places which has given us space for the Chivajo ginger is the Bountiful Duka at Acacia Mall, behind the Acacia Mall. Thank you so much, Sandra. It's a pleasure to see Ugandans creating such spaces, even for startups. So what do I tell you? You don't need to do the amazing innovations, the invention you've never heard about anywhere, maybe the new plane, no. You need to sight out any challenge where you come from. The challenge which faces humanity, create a solution for that challenge which really tackle and really gives solutions to the people, to the indigenous people where you come from, or where you are based, or where you are staying, and money and international recognitions will follow you. Remains the Chivajo boy.
Thank you very much, Cyrus. You know, when entrepreneurs are told to share their story, it's very rich, it's very visionary, and sometimes as a moderator, you're in the worst position to, keep changing location to alert someone that, time is up. But stories such as Cyrus is one of resilience, one of, belief in oneself. Like he said, you do not have to have such out of the blue idea to start. Look around your community. What solution can you create? And start with what you have, right? So let's give him a round of applause. At this point, allow me invite Sarah Basemera, who is the founder of Raising Gabdo Foundation. Sarah, you have 8 minutes to tell your story. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aisha, for the invitation. And many thanks to the organizations that have put this together. I'm very happy to be sharing with you today a little bit about myself and about my work. Like every one of us, I was lucky to have a chance to go to the university. And for my parents, it was very specific. They wanted me to study a business course, but business administration, because they said then I would get a job in the bank. So when I was applying for my degree, I told them there is this degree in entrepreneurship. They said, business admin, you're going to work in the bank. It's easy to get a job there. So I did put entrepreneurship and small business management as my first course. I didn't tell them. So I was given that course, and I studied. The drama came at the end of the course because I had to present my degree, and also they had to come for graduation. So there was a lot of explanation on what happened. And after school, throughout the 3 years, I learned not to look for a job. So I told them I was going to start a business, and they told me that's impossible. You have to work. So I got to the papers and began looking for jobs. And I got my first job with Cobil, the current Robis. So my mentor then, my auntie told me I have to work for a minimum of 5 years to learn the skills and then also grow and become a big person in an organization. Okay, I did the 5 years. And after that, honestly, I just walked out because I'd done their part. The degree one, I failed them, but at least the employment I did. But I was also lucky to have had a chance to work in a company, and also a multinational company. It's one of the skills that if you're lucky to have as an entrepreneur, please utilize, because you will learn a lot of things. When you just wake up from the university and start up, you'll miss a lot of basics. You'll miss things around policies. You'll miss things around, how to run an organization, teams, and things like that. Having joined as a graduate trainee, I was lucky to go through until I was a retail head. For those in petroleum, you know what it means to oversee petroleum sales for a company in the whole country. It was a good opportunity for me to learn a lot of things. When I got tired, and felt that I need to move. And it was at a point when I did everything I could do. The company was 10 years old. Together with the team, we managed to double the sales to where they had not been in the 10 years. We maintained that, but we didn't go beyond that in 2 years, for 2 years after that. I felt bored. I needed a new challenge. I moved out, and while on leave, in my last month out when I asked for, that the 30 days you give as you quit, because I had a lot of leave days, I managed to meet a team that was talking about community development, community work. So I was just out there looking like, I want something else. And I was also lucky to meet the right team. And then there were organizations, UNHCR, InterAid, and I heard of different things that we're talking about. If we're speaking sustainability today, if we're speaking impact, if we're speaking youth, it was different. It wasn't about numbers, money, numbers, volumes, offload a truck. Hey, this was a beautiful life. And in there, we had a chance to go through a human-centered design training. I was also lucky to get that kind of training. So if you're here, if you know people who really want to start out, the kind of foundation you get is important. What kind of training are you getting at the beginning? Sometimes you have the idea, you have the money, you have this, but have you understood how you're going to roll in? So in there, and that was the birth of this organization, Rising Gabdo Foundation. Everything was community-centered. Gabdo means girls, so Rising Girls, and foundation was a decision by all of us. People say, foundations are helping people, they are good, so we just put the word foundation. It's nothing like we woke up and said, we're going to be Rising Gabdo Foundation. And in there, our core focus, after consulting with the communities, we found that there was an energy challenge. Like everyone somewhere, somehow, was struggling with energy. The people at the grassroots. The men that were doing hawking, like those men you see in town hawking things, some of them are single fathers. When they go back home, they'll carry food from town, but it's cold. They need to warm it. And most of them are living in places where it's not that easy to just light a sigiri at night. We had it from the single mothers. We had it from the women that are actually having large families. Like the burden of energy was so much on the women. And we said our organization is going to focus on energy access for the women. We did a few things, and it was a bit difficult. It wasn't easy like how we thought it would roll out. So we had to start seeking partnerships to understand and to know how, first of all, to have the money to get to do things at impact level. Because you do not have the numbers, you don't have the money coming in, but you need to test things. Sometimes when you get a platform, and maybe you're down there exhibiting, you'll be asked questions that you cannot really explain. What is the impact? How much carbon are you offsetting? How much is this? And you do not have the money to do that. So you cannot explain such things. So we said, okay, we started approaching people who would like to know how much carbon is offset if somebody, for example, uses briquettes. What is happening with things like that? We reached a level where I needed to sit and just do writing or reading or things like that. We couldn't afford an office space. We couldn't afford internet. It was so much. So I had to leave the workshop and leave people working. And I sat at the Innovation Village for 3 years. It's more close like what Outbox does. And I think I was one of the people who would go in first, like at 6 a.m. and leave last. Then the world was safe. You would leave at 2 a.m. and still go home and things were fine. It's not what it is today. Until 2019 end, we decided, yes, we're coming out. We are ready to be, to run on our own. And the bell rang. So November, as we moved out, COVID was out. Everything had to freeze, like we had to close. Our office now became a storage for all the product we had in our outlets. So everything crumbled so fast, like we wished we knew we should have stayed at the village because we were safe there, we were not paying anything. And we were lucky on our side that in 2020, conversations with IRC and the rebuild began. For us, it was like life, when everything is closing down, but somebody's telling we are going to do this, it's likely to be a 5-year project, you're like, okay, so there is hope actually, the world is not going to end. So our journey begins in there. We're lucky to walk the journey in 2020 with Rebuild, with the whole family, up to 2021. We're also lucky to be partners that are actually currently implementing. So in the energy space, what do we actually do? We have a small factory in Kapeka Industrial Park, just alongside it, and we've been promoting briquettes a lot. We learned that as we're looking at sustainability and women engagement, most of us who do briquettes are doing them from charcoal dust. So the question was, how can we produce briquettes from biomass 100%? And that's one of the things we've been trying to work with. We want to produce a product and tell you, you're going to buy it because you're saving the environment. Are you really saving the environment? What are the inputs? What are the raw materials? So, and it's also, so it speaks to us a little bit. It's not enough to promote a sustainable product, but also the value chain, the inputs that come in, how you source them, that became another question. So that's how now we get to engage the women, the youth, the kind of training that they will go through to know that they have to do responsible sourcing of the raw materials that they're going to supply us. Then we are very happy that, yes, we are speaking to sustainability. And how does Rebuild help us into this? So we get a chance to know that you have a little bit of leverage to work with the groups, the women groups, to work with the individuals, to work with skilled people who will now know the kind of input they need to bring to the table. And for us, every time we have an opportunity to do an activity, we think beyond just getting somebody into employment or getting somebody get a job, but how do they do it in a sustainable way? How do I, for example, participate in the textile value chain by just addressing the sustainability issues around there? Things like wastewater, things like waste cloth. How can we handle that so that the entire textile space is clean? So that is where our interest as RGF is. We are lucky to be this side, but then we are also lucky to still be addressing the issues that we really have interest in. So we've been moving, and then you're looking at briquettes. We're trying to understand how do you address the value chain, that line, that we're doing. And yes, and so there are other bits that we continue to look at. How do we merge a number of products, and what are issues that women are actually facing, and how can they be addressed? But one of our biggest challenge has been the internal, the emotional bit of a woman. Every time people come out and speak about women, give them capital, give them this, I don't think that's the key problem. There is the inner bit of a woman that you need to speak to, address her, clean her from inside, and then she can respond confidently and sustainably on the outside. I like all of us as we walk back, before we call people in groups, train them, push them, pump this into them, let us know that they are mentally and emotionally fine. Thank you so much, and I wish you all the best.
Like I said earlier, I hate to be the one to cut entrepreneurs from sharing their story, but we know that time is one of the greatest assets we have, and we have to move according to schedule. Powerful stories, great initiatives. We're going to tweak our agenda a little bit. You've had 2 amazing stories from amazing entrepreneurs. It's my pleasure to invite a great friend of mine, Michelle Omamtaker. The work she does is priceless. That's all I can say. So let's put our hands together for our keynote speaker of the second keynote speaker of the day, Michelle. Thank you very much.
I look at my watch always before I speak. It's morning, it's 5 minutes till I can say good morning. You're going to have to forgive me. I'm going to retain my shield because I have a cold. So this is why I'm wearing the shield. I don't want to, I want us to have a good time and leave here, well and healthy. So forgive me for looking ambiguous before all of you. I could be anyone. I could be a cat, I could be a dog, I could be a person, we don't know, I could be an alien, who knows, but yes, forgive me. That's why my voice is also a little bit groggy, because I'm just recovering from a cold. So, as introduced, my name is Michelle Omamtaker, and I'd like to say once again, bonjour, habari, and good morning to you all. I am, among many things, Asha's very good friend, yes. But I am a writer, an activist, mainly known for my work in disability rights, but through the framework of disability rights, we do a lot of work with women with disabilities, particularly entrepreneurial endeavors. And I am also the founder of an organization called Malengo Foundation. Malengo is Swahili to mean goals, not goals in the sense of football, mabao, goal, but goals in the sense of dreams and aspirations. So today I speak in the capacity of an activist, actually. I thought about the theme, being women affordable financing and sustainable enterprises. I beg your pardon. And to me, I thought speaking as an activist would be most beneficial. So what is an activist? How do I approach this? An activist is really just a professional deep thinker. You know, you're just paid to think critically about all things. And when I was thinking about the theme, I thought about it like I think about most things. I thought about it from primary, secondary, and tertiary. That's how I think about actually almost everything I do or everything I speak about. I think about it in a primary, a secondary, and a tertiary sense. So sustainable enterprises would be your tertiary. Affordable financing or education, access to legal redress and et cetera, would be your secondary. To create a successful woman entrepreneur would be your secondary. The primary would be a woman, right? Which I felt very connected with what you were saying. At the heart of women entrepreneurs is women. So while I'm sure, once again, I'd like to apologize for disorganizing the program just because I have another engagement somewhere else. I'm very sure that the panelists, the technocrats who are going to come on board are going to have a wealth and a vast of information to speak on financing and enterprises and legal redress and all these things that make up the tertiary and secondary aspect of what makes a woman entrepreneur. So I thought that as delivering my keynote, I would focus on women. Woman. What does it mean to be a woman entrepreneur? And at the core of that, what is the life cycle of a woman? The life cycle of a woman, of course, starts in the belly, but the life cycle of a woman entrepreneur, I think, is a girl. And I think that many times as women entrepreneurs, we come together pretty late. We come together when we are thinking that we are going to develop who we are as women entrepreneurs from the secondary and the tertiary. So you're going to get it from the financing, or you're going to get it from the legal address, or you're going to get it from all these different structures. But as women, inside of us is a girl. And as girls, we are not naturalized to be entrepreneurs. So we are late. That is what my keynote is going to be about. Unfortunately, that may not be what you expected me to speak about, but that is what I felt called to speak about. And when I say we are late, what I mean by that is there is no narrative for girls as entrepreneurs. Usually when I speak about things that seem very simple. Most people say so. I'm not somebody who speaks about things that are, I don't speak about the leaves of the tree, I speak about the roots in the tree because I believe that the roots of the tree are what create the leaves in the tree. And while there are other speakers who speak about the leaves and the branches and different aspects, I think that if the roots are not sunk deep enough, you don't really get the tree that you're expecting. Now, when I say that girls are not naturalized to be entrepreneurs, this is what I mean. Again, something very, very, very simple that people overlook. Boys, one of the key ingredients of being an entrepreneur is to believe that the impossible is possible. Fundamentally, you have to believe that the impossible is possible. Girls are not naturalized to believe that the impossible is possible. And I'll give you something that is very, very simple. Superheroes. Most of you here, you are women, or if you're young ladies, young adults, you have sons, nephews, maybe you're teachers, you have students, maybe you have neighbors. Look at the difference between the way a boy is naturalized and the way a girl is naturalized. From when a boy is as young as 9 or 8 years old, he believes that the impossible is possible. He believes that Superman is real. He believes that Batman is real. He believes that Superman can fly off a building. And his imagination is so vast and expansive. Girls are not naturalized to believe this. And yet, you grow into a young adult, and then a woman, and then all of a sudden, you're bombarded with what is in the secondary and the tertiary. Oh, you have to believe that what is impossible is possible. But you do not teach girls, young girls, to believe that what is impossible is possible. What you teach young girls to do is to work hard, which is very good. Most girls are involved in chores. I'm talking about primary. Again, I said secondary, tertiary. I'm talking about primary, what we do at home, what we do in the classroom. It impacts who we grow to be into. So what we teach girls that can enhance their entrepreneurial journey is we teach them hard work, but we teach them to be limited in their hard work. So we teach girls to be laborers. It's very fundamental to understand, ladies, that we are late. Very, 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 very late in the journey. My appeal as the keynote today is for us to go back and say, what are we teaching our girls? I will then talk about something also very simple, sports. Look at sports. Let me take football, for example. Boys usually have teams. Think about every male or boy-dominated sport. Whether you think football, whether you think rugby, whether you think basketball, whether you think about the boys just playing in the field outside your house about a game they made up, there's usually a target, and it usually requires teams. In those teams, there's a captain. That captain, from as young as 10, tasks himself to look around his friends and create a SWOT analysis. So these are the strengths, these are the weaknesses. This one runs fast, this one doesn't run too fast. This one, is a great morale booster. This one can be a substitute. This one will sit on the bench. This one will be a forward. This, as young as 10, 9, 8 years old. Boys are already in the boardroom. They are naturalized. And whether you are an entrepreneur who is going to be in the boardroom or not, at some point, you will be required to negotiate. You will be required to enter some sort of a discussion, an exchange, a professional exchange, if you want to take your entrepreneurial endeavor to the next level. So there is no question that girls are fundamentally bright, fundamentally ready. And I believe at another event, similarly, I said that women have always been inventors. They've always been doing these remarkable things. But that in and of itself is not enough. It is my argument, right or wrong, that even if you facilitate women in the secondary and the tertiary, you always find that boys who grow into men supersede the expectations, even if they are not as facilitated in the secondary and in the tertiary. Because boys are naturalized to be entrepreneurs. They're naturalized to believe the impossible is possible. They're naturalized to work in teams. They're naturalized to be creative. They're naturalized to problem solve, to find solutions. That is why it is irrelevant if even a boy is educated. Most of these entrepreneurial endeavors that you will find in the informal sector are spearheaded by boys. Now, of course, there are 3 levels, of course. You will either talk about the legal framework of entrepreneurship, or you talk about the financial, or you talk about the cultural. As I said, you're either talking about the roots, or you're talking about the trunk, or you're talking about the branches and the leaves. I chose today to speak about the roots. I am here before you today. They called me an activist of sorts, but I didn't become an activist yesterday. I did not become an activist yesterday. I tell you something very, very odd as I close my speech. I used to talk to plants when I was a kid. I know this sounds very, very, very weird. I used to talk to plants, and it was the most strange thing. I would go to school, learn everything I've learned in school, and then I would come back home, and then I'd go into the garden because my mom, she loves flowers, so she's always, organizing her garden and things. So I'd go there, and then I would teach the plants everything that I studied in school. And I remember, yes, and that's how I used to revise. I never used to revise. I would just come and repeat what the teacher said in the classroom is what I come and I say to the plants. So if the teacher taught me 2 times 2 is this, and I remember a family friend coming over, and finding me in the garden talking to plants, finding it really odd, and bringing the matter to my dad. Say, Michelle, your child is really strange. And my father said, no. My daughter will stand before people one day and have the same confidence and speak with that message. Now, had my father reprimanded me and pulled me aside and said, why are you talking to plants? And from talking in front of plants, I started talking in front of people. I always had something to say. And my father would always ask me, he'd always say to me, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? It was always something that was very embedded in our relationship. I say that my father naturalized me to an activist before I knew what that meant, because he would, after playing badminton at the sports club, he would come back, maybe he's having his glass of wine and he's watching CNN or whatever, and he would call me and he would ask me questions. I was 12 or 13 years old, but he would ask me questions about geopolitics or what's happening in the world, or, we were talking about, I was talking about Crimea, what people are talking about Russia and Ukraine today when I was 11 or 12 years old. The point that I'm trying to raise is that you want girls, women, entrepreneurs. We as women, all of us have to come together and think about how we are going to rethink the social narrative on how girls and women are naturalized. Without that, we will always, it is my humble opinion, be late to the conversation. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Michelle Amamtekere. I thank you very much for giving me your attention. I do not take it for granted. I end my speech by congratulating all the partners involved today for organizing a successful event today. And I wish you many, many years ahead of abundance. All the .coms and all the .orgs today, remember, we are late today, but we can be on time tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Earlier on, I lied to you. I'm back. I thought I wouldn't return, but look who is here. Can we give a round of applause to Michelle? If her speech didn't move you, please come to me. I'll give you the recording. Listen to it in your free time, because wherever I was, I kept wondering, why don't I have a daughter to listen to this speech? Thank you so much, Michelle, and I hope everyone has been touched by your speech. So just like Aisha had shared, we tweaked our schedule a bit. So we'll have last two spotlight speakers come immediately after the panel. So right now, allow me invite Don Patrick Mujingo. He'll be our host for the panel discussion. I hope you guys are ready for this. If you're not, just open your ears and get your questions ready. Don will do the amazing job of inviting our panelists and setting the stage for the discussion coming up. Can't we clap for Don? Eh? All right.
Yes, thank you. Can we clap for Bob? Yes, thank you very much. Good afternoon to all of you. Good afternoon to all of you. My name is Bujingo Don Patrick, and I'll do the simple job of handling the panel discussion together with our panelists. I hope you're all energized and you're refreshed with knowledge and each and everything that has been shared today. So before this start of the entire session, I would like to invite us to rise up. Please rise. Small exercise to refresh us and fight against the power of such a good breakfast. All right, so we're going to do a small breathing exercise, and this is done by athletes and our sportsmen and women. So we're going to breathe in for a period of 5 seconds, and then breathe out for a period of 5 seconds, and then breathe in again for a period of 5 seconds, and then hold our breath for 5 seconds. Yeah, that's clear. We're going to do it together, but I can see some already practicing. We'll breathe in for a period of 5 seconds, breathe out for a period of 5 seconds, and then breathe in again for a period of 5 seconds, and then hold our breath for 5 seconds. So together, we go. We are breathing in. Yes, thank you very much. Those of us that have done it. I have no evidence if some have or some haven't. So this morning we're here, and I would like to really start by appreciating the organizers of this event, Outbox, in partnership with the Yale community. We've had a great privilege of working with other partners, Rebuild, and the NSSF is on board, and it's such an opportunity to have all these people together. So we'll start off by reminding ourselves of the theme of this panel discussion. We're asking ourselves, gender, has it been an enabler or blocker for growth and development of sustainable enterprises? So we have a number of people that will be sharing their stories together. And in this session, we also want to be able to pick on your thoughts, your ideas, and some of your proposals. But before I start, I would like, again, to introduce myself. My name is Bujingo Don Patrick. I work with Aloysia Organic Natural Health Products, and it's one of the companies at the back there exhibiting. We are researchers and manufacturers in the field of natural medicines. We also have cosmetics, soft drinks, spices, and essential oils. So on the other end, I'm also a lecturer of marketing and French at Mackay University Business School. So it's a pleasure to be joining the ladies here who will be sharing with us. And what we will do is I will invite one by one as I read their profiles, and I will afterwards join them and give some, context to this discussion as we start off. And I would like to start with Miss Mercy Atiang, and I'd like to invite her to come through, starting from the extreme left, to take your seat. Miss Mercy Atiang is an investment officer for Deal Flow Facility. Mercy is also, this is a project which has been implemented by FSD Uganda in collaboration with the Capital Markets Authority of Uganda, funded by the European Union. She has a wealth of experience in deal execution, investment banking, investment analysis, and enterprise development, and she has worked with over 2,000 early and growth stage enterprises across sub-Saharan Africa seeking capital. A round of applause for Mercy. I'd like to then invite Ms. Joan Nalubega, who is the founder of Euganics. She's a social entrepreneur with a vision to fight malaria. And in 2016, she founded Euganics, a social enterprise that envisions a malaria-free world. This is by utilizing everyday household products like soap And growing up in an orphanage, Joan suffered from a lot of malaria, like many of us. And this destroyed her childhood, and for this reason, she decided to turn her painful experience or past into strength to fight the disease. Miss Joan, if you're present, I would like to invite you to join Mercy. Okay, I will ask Bob to help me confirm. I would like to then invite Miss Farida Nalunkuma, who is the founder of Kasana Foods. Farida is a farmer and an entrepreneur with experience in education, environmental and entrepreneurial organizations. She founded Kasana Foods, a startup that produces and sells all natural dried fruit and spices using organic and locally grown ingredients sourced from smallholder farmers. Kasana Foods helps farmers to earn more incomes, increase local added value, and combat food waste in Uganda. So Farida is passionate about creating economic opportunities for women through business innovation. Farida, you're most welcome. And last but not least, Miss Fiona Nambazira Luswata, who is the founder of Costawi Africa, a BDS consultant, an entrepreneur, and an IVLP alumni. Fiona is the CEO, Garnet Consult, and founder of Costawi Africa. Miss Fiona's work focuses on building the entrepreneurial capacity of SMEs with a bias in the agricultural sector as well, fostering the economic development and empowerment of women and girls by encouraging them to serve as agents of positive change in different artisan sectors. So currently, she serves as a business development consultant and lead trainer on entrepreneurship, where she helps SMEs work towards profitability and sustainability. Let's give them a round of applause. So I wanted to confirm through Aisha or Bob if Joan is with us, and then we'll be able to start off. But I'll be then happy to join you, and then we can start off the panel discussion. Otherwise, thank you, and you're welcome. All right, so just to give us some background to this, many of us who also happen to be business people or entrepreneurs have had several challenges, especially in the COVID-19 period. So if you're a business person, most certainly you've found the challenge or you've gotten to the experience of doing business in such a difficult and a hard time. So some of the things that we've had to endure. So I've been advised as we wait for Ms. Joan, if she'll be coming through, I think other panelists can be able to come through and close in on the gap. So Farida as well and Mercy, so we can. All right, thank you. I think that's better. Okay, thank you. Yes, so some of the challenges that we've had to endure and work with, things like access to finance, things like lack of databases, research and development expenditures, undeveloped sales channels, and all these things happened in a challenging time whereby everybody, even those in green business, they had challenges that came with travel restrictions, things to do with plummeting of financial markets, supply shortages. We were down on transport in Uganda, so it was a very, very evident thing. So as we are here today, the people in the audience want to be able to understand and appreciate what it takes to be able to have a business. So from your experiences, we want to be able to learn. And also, I hope you'll be able to share some best practices that people can be able to engage in as business owners and then be able to learn. Friends, just to remind you, there are so many businesses exhibiting at the back. I saw Wape, I saw Jane Organics, I saw Kampala Women Artisans, I did see Kasana Foods, Aloysia Organic, so please, I hope you've been able to see these businesses. So we'll start off from the element of, I think, what it takes, yes, and I think Mercy comes in quite well on this one. What does it take as an investment officer for the people that are watching us here? What does it take to be able to meet these obligations or the prerequisites for a business to be funded on the ground of this being a green business and on the ground of this being a sustainable business? What does it mean on your end?
Hi, everyone. I think that's a very good question. And I'll start by giving a few statistics, because to me these statistics are quite shocking. So in Africa, at least 40% of the SMEs are women-founded. However, only 20% have received financing, institutional financing. That represents a gap of about $7.7 billion. And just to bring it home, 11% of startups have actually received financing that are women-funded. 11% of women-funded startups have received financing. If you compare that, that should shock you the way it did shock me. So if that's the case generally, can we imagine how many percentage of green businesses have actually received financing? It's much, much lower than that. In fact, a study recently, and I'd encourage all of us to go and read that study by UNEP DP and Finding XY. They did a study on local green businesses or clean energy businesses, and out of the 10 that participated in that study, only one company was women-founded. So there's very limited representation of women-founded companies in the green industry or green space. But that's to say that, but it's not all lost. I think most recently, lots of funding or funds have started having a gender lens focus in the way they deploy capital. And so I think about $7.7 billion was, or assets under management, was actually deployed into gender lens, focused companies or companies that have a gender positive, business model. And that represents a jump of about 60% since 2018. So how do we position, to your question, how do we position our businesses, especially green businesses, coming back to the theme, to be able to receive this type of financing from these funds? So first things first, I think it would be important for all of us to appreciate the fact that there's very diverse investors. So you have your impact investors, you have your private equity investors, you have your venture capital investors as well. Generally, or what we've seen, most investors would want to invest in non-harmful sectors. So sectors that, say, for instance, do not trade, wildlife artifacts, very non-harmful, that's generally. But if you drill it down to impact investors, they want to have a social return, and more so, they've defined that, they've defined the key impact matrix that they would expect from businesses that they invest. So what does that mean for us as entrepreneurs in the room? First things first, and I think this is the lowest hanging fruit for an entrepreneur, it's you need to define your impact, articulate your impact to the T. Meaning, if you're saying, I'm reducing the carbon footprint, how are you reducing that carbon footprint? What are your key statistics? What's the projected impact that you're hoping to achieve? So how do you articulate your impact better to be able to tap into the financing or funding that is being deployed currently? Then I think number two is keep in mind all these investors are in for a return. It may be a financial return or it may be a social return, but there's need for you to position your business to a potential investor such that they see the potential return that the business brings, be it social or financial. And then lastly, there's different ways, especially for green businesses. So, and I know probably we'll talk about this much later, but there's the environmental social governance policies, the ESG policies. You as an entrepreneur, as you're starting, you need to develop ESG policies, and not just develop, but also implement. So what do I mean by this? Either you're vertically integrating your value chain. So for instance, and I'm glad there's someone doing briquetting here, but for instance, you're producing avocado oil, for instance, or even gonja chips. What do you do to the peel after, you know, you pressed out your oil? Do you throw it, or do you take it to a briquetting company as agricultural waste, and then they can use that to briquette? So are you integrating your supply chain, you know, vertically or backwards to ensure that you have zero waste? So how do you so it's just not about having the ESG policies, but also implementing those policies. And then lastly, lastly, there's specific funders. So for instance, and I'd encourage any green business in the room to go and look at this, the GOGLA policy. Some funders such as Sun Funder would want for an entrepreneur to have bought into the GOGLA sustainable policies. What does that mean for you as an entrepreneur? So I'll stop there.
Okay, thank you very much, Mercy. I think Mercy gives us a great entry point into the discussion. And I mean, there's many things that she has advised us to do. How many of us in the room are entrepreneurs? You're doing business. And how many of us are confident about the impact, more so positive, that we are having on the environment or on the people around us? You're confident that it's positive. That's a good number, Mercy, to start with, I think. Okay, so I think what she has highlighted and what I really get as a key aspect is that you must be able to articulate your impact to this person that you're pitching to. And it's important that, what does articulation mean? I think you're speaking numbers, the number of people involved, carbon footprint and things like that. What's that in detail? So that's a good one, Mercy. And the fact that we have women entrepreneurs here, I think that now brings my first question to them. What strategies or approaches, and I think I will start with Farida, have you learned over time that have enabled your business to become sustainable? And please tell the audience, what exactly are you doing that helps you guarantee that you're being sustainable in the real sense?
Thank you. And I'm really honored to be here. My name is Farida Nalunkuma. I founded Kasana Foods, which is an agribusiness that is producing and selling all natural dried fruits and spices. So to answer your question, Dawn, one, our business model is fourfold. So one, sourcing, and then two, processing. So three, you have customer acquisition, and then lastly, distribution. And so, I mean, as I describe sort of those activities, it's where I think as to what are we doing right? What do we need to improve, right? So, and I'll speak lastly, rather to the processing, because that's where, to address more sort of your question. So, I mean, we get fresh produce from farmers, and so of course there's transport, and that's already, in terms of the environment, if you're doing so many shifts in bringing your raw materials. So we are keen on how do we make sure that farmers, so if you have every farmer bringing their produce to the market, how do we reduce that transport costs, right? So, and the idea is that if you're working with as many farmers as possible, so right now we're working with 3 farmers, and the goal is to have as many farmers as possible, so looking at 10 by year 1. So if we can have as many farmers working, getting their produce to, say, one processor or one trader who's taking it to the market, then you're helping them reduce their transport costs. And then so if you're having as much produce into, say, one vehicle, that's one way you're also reducing the carbon footprint. And then so when it comes to processing, so once we have the finished products, so of course we have waste, all the fruit and vegetable peels. And so we've already explored how we can turn these, upcycle them into other fruit snacks, but also fertilizer. And so these are not necessarily new ideas. So we're not necessarily reinventing the wheel, so we're just saying, if someone else is doing it, do we have the resources, do we have the capacity to do the same? So our vegetable waste from our processing, we make sure that we're producing fertilizer for it. So a friend of ours is doing the earthworm decomposition, and so that was great for us to see that it's actually now put into other good use. And so, but I mean, in terms of the strategies that I've learned thinking through these processes, is one was to build and document the operating procedures. So it's so easy to think, oh, this is how we do things, and then after you leave, or other people who are running the same business, can they borrow those and have to use them in their businesses? So one is definitely build and then continuously improve those standard operating procedures. And then lastly, it's to also sort of digitalize the data in running these, in running our business operations. And a number of people will speak to the value of having to use data-driven decisions. And I mean, I remember the last panel we were at, that's something you emphasized as well. So I would put it out there to this network as well. It helps a lot, more so from startup to your growth, and then a well-established business to have those two running.
All right, thank you very much, Farida. And I think it's nice that you're not just telling us, theoretical things, but you're telling us how you are applying what you are doing. So the fact that you have some banana peelings that you do not use in your final product, but you found somebody else that would need them and then also be able to offer value to them. So I think that also highlights an element of good business partnerships. We should be able to work with somebody to be able to achieve something. And this is the very point where I would like to bring in Fiona. Farida has highlighted how exactly she's doing her business to ensure that it's going to be sustainable in the future. But because she's into more processing, and now I want to bring the element of inclusivity and that equity in business, because that's something that also funders that pay attention to, like Marcy said. On your end, what strategies are you implementing and how to ensure that you are well positioned for funding from people, organizations of the kind that Marcy represents?
Thank you so much. So my name is Fiona Luswata. I am the founder of Kustawi Africa. Kustawi Africa is an organization, a business development services organization, and our purpose is to focus on women and girls' businesses to help them innovate, to grow, to develop, and to have thriving businesses. When you talk about positioning ourselves, my background really is in business development, but that's not where my story or my journey starts. My journey started in a corporate world where you get an end of month salary, and I was really good at what I was doing, as in operations, and everything was going well. So fast forward, I leave the employment space, and now I join the real world. Amazing world it is. Had fantastic failed businesses. And from there, I say, then I graduated. That is when I believe you start to say, now you have experience in life. What did that teach me? It taught me, though, that we are not prepared, much like Michelle said. So how do we position ourselves? From the failed businesses, I realized that one of the things we don't do is to study our environment. What is the environment telling you? What do your clients want? We think that it is a simple thing, but if we are not intentional about understanding the environment, about understanding what our clients want, about understanding our impact, then it becomes very difficult for people to partner with us or to come on board. So inclusivity for us in our organization, it is a number of things in terms of strategy. We have to be very intentional on inclusivity. Generically speaking, we say, oh, we should include women and girls. but do you actually know how many women and girls you're employing in your organization? When you're doing the hiring process, are you intentional to say, okay, I have a staff of 10 men and 1 woman? Or are you even understanding that your top management is only men? So when you come to sit at the table in a business meeting, there's no woman to speak. That is what I mean by intentionality. So it has to be intentionality almost as a strategy. I don't know how else to put that you are being intentional about being all-inclusive in your hiring process. Another thing that you have to do is to use data. She talked about data. When you use data, that really means that you are understanding the contribution that the different people are making to your organization, the different contributions that your organization is making to the different sectors. Is it to the environment? Who are you targeting? Are you targeting, if you're in the green industry, is it agriculture? Is it the female space? Are you actually doing something that is relevant? If you're doing something that is relevant, then you're able to ensure that there's inclusivity in terms of when you're targeting other partners. But most importantly for us, when you talk about equity and inclusion, is we as organizations have to be intentional. I'll go back to what Michelle said. And when she talked about women starting late in the business space, I was recently talking to youth and saying when girls are growing up and girls are cooking in the kitchen, brilliant thing that they cook, but the boys are sitting at the table with their fathers, and the fathers are talking business. So we are preparing them. How inclusive are our conversations? Are the women in the kitchen, you know, when there's a function, an official function, are they preparing and calling the caterers while the men are discussing the critical issues that talk about strategy and moving forward with stakeholders? Are we including the women in being able to have stakeholder engagements and making sure that they sit at the table and become active listeners in these conversations? Because that is what the partners want. The partners want to be able to know that your business is including women, not just in the hiring process as cleaners and laborers, as we said, but also as decision makers. Thank you.
Wow, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Intentionality as a business strategy. I hope we've taken that down. Intentionality as a business strategy. You must be intentional about what you want to be seen to be doing, or what you want the world to know you for as a business. And I think now this, I want to go to Mercy briefly, but then before I go to Mercy, I wanted to ask Farida, in your business, this idea of trying to create a balance between men and women, what are some of the challenges that you've found in doing this? Because I'm sure some of the entrepreneurs here have also tried to do that. What are some of the challenges that business owners or entrepreneurs face as you are trying to create this balance? So maybe we could also pick some lessons from that.
Thank you, Don. So the first one isn't a lesson I learned from this business, but rather another startup I was in. And I learned you're going to find a lot of sexist people. So my reaction was, you need to play the game that exists. And so here was the thing, I was dealing with contractors, and so for probably not their own doing, but the society we're living in, work was getting done better if I had my male colleague by me to discuss with them what we needed to be done. And so I think as I go through for this business is, what do I need to get done? But also at the back of my mind, I'm a woman, and so you're going to find a number of people who will not do business with you for just that reason. So if I put so much time finding the logic behind that, I won't move. So to say, that was really challenging. So every other time it was a reality check. He's like, I'm the boss, but you are asking for the boss. What is happening, right? So I think that was really challenging, and I share that, I hear that with other women entrepreneurs, whether it's with the community or with customers or even with investors. I mean, there's already a whole discussion as to when women have to pitch their ideas on a scale of whatever scale we have, how many women, the women businesses that are funded, right? So I think that's a really key one, and I'll stop at that.
It becomes
but
challenging.
there's
But
so
then
many.
again, just to ask you, just on your recruitment, for example, when you're handling recruitment, are you bringing forth, for example, on your side, what comes first? Is the gender at the back of your mind first, or is the role to be done at the back of your mind? What are you bringing forth? Like,
role.
I need to recruit a lady for this position, or this role requires.
So
You know,
it's
how do
honestly
you-
the role. For me, it's can this person get the job done,
Okay,
right?
that's a good one,
But
yeah.
I also understand for certain roles, it's who could do it most effectively, right?
Okay,
And so, for example, for farmers, I'm very intentional to see, I've found that you have male farmers at the front who are saying, oh, I own the farm, but who does the work? The reality is a big number of them, the women are doing the manual work. But the men have a lot more resources, they are funding their farms. I found a challenge there when I was recruiting the farmer suppliers. It's mostly, even if you're going to the markets, the stalls have mostly men, but who's doing most of the work? So that was challenging, but to answer your question, it was who can get the job done a lot more effectively, but not leaving that behind, that all these other circumstances, women being excluded from the front of the work, the important work that we're doing.
Okay, well said, Farida. That's a good one. And I think we are here to really discuss business financing. Yeah, to a great extent, business financing, and especially it's financing for green, sustainable businesses. So remember that Mercy highlighted something, and remember, if some of you forgot something that I read in Mercy's profile, she has a wealth of experience in deal execution. So I want to execute some deals with you today, and I want to engage the audience. I want to give an opportunity to two people that are running green and sustainable businesses to pitch their business to Mercy with articulation of your impact in that business. Two people, I want to give you an opportunity. You come, you will pitch your business to Mercy under 2 minutes, and Mercy will then vet, tell you what she thinks is missing in your pitch, and then what you can be able to build onto. And please don't forget to be articulate on your impact. Two people, and I request Bob to help me select them. Bob, by show of hand, if you're ready, you'll come through and pitch your idea under 2 minutes. I'll give the people who are running green, sustainable businesses. Now, Mercy, you'll then pick up from there and then be able to guide us, because I want to be really practical in this. Is my business creating good impact? Two people. I think, Bob, we can let them actually come to the podium, yeah? Because we want pitch well seated. We want standing ideas. Yes. So you pitch your business, and the idea is really see how best you articulate your impact, you know, as a business.
So we're doing 2 minutes? Okay. Hi, Mercy. Hello, good people. My name is Immaculate Akelo. I call myself the King of African Beauty. I come from Otuke, so my friends call me the Otukarian. I work with rural women in northern Uganda, in the district of Otuke. We pride in producing natural shea butter products. Currently, we have 3 products: the pure, raw, unrefined shea butter, the shea butter moisturizer, and the shea butter soap. We work with 150 women. We have divided them into 3 groups, and we are supported by the district forest officer. And we have an agreement with the district and the women that to be part of our community venture, you must plant more trees and not cut down any shea nut tree. And so we have managed to plant 1,500 trees in the district of Otuke. We have a plan for 2022. Our plan for 2022 is to empower our women, not just to produce butter, but also to be financially aware and to be able to put more money in their pockets, because we realize women not only provide food, but they also decide on which school their child goes to and if the child is actually able to attain university. So this year, we are looking at training them on economic empowerment and also financial intelligence, and so we will be working with them closely to open a small financial cooperative where they are able to save their money locally. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Immaculate Akelo, you can take your seat. I request Master to give us feedback at once at the end. The second individual that's running a green and sustainable enterprise, articulation of impact.
Good afternoon. My name is Irene Naroga. I'm the Managing Director of Women Tour Uganda. This is my pitch. Yes, at Women Tour Uganda, we do organize mountain gorilla safaris for women only, solo women travelers from all over the world. Women who don't have anyone to travel with, women who are divorced, women who are single, women who never got children to travel with. So our impact as a company is we set up scheduled dates and encourage other women from all over the world to join our safaris, go together, make friends within the safaris, and even after the safaris, they travel together outside Uganda. So through our safaris, we've met so many women who we've met so many women who become friends out of our safaris. And also as we are traveling, we teach them our culture, give them our gomeses as a gift from the company. And beyond that, we do donate like a percentage of our profits to women-run NGOs from the profits that we make from each safari. So our big impact, just to emphasize, is encouraging solo women travelers who don't have anyone to travel with, make friends, travel together, share life experiences, and even have memorable moments, reduce the rate of loneliness and depression, sometimes suicide. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. If you could just stay there for a minute, I just have one question for you before Mercy responds to you. So if Mercy is going to connect you to a partner that will give you some money, how much money do you need and for what?
Oh. We are in a process of building a safari lodge in Bwindi, which will be strictly built out of plastic bottles. Already we've identified the land, so $50,000 can kickstart us as our safaris keep coming in. Now that COVID has ended, has reduced, so we will be able to get profits from our safaris. And also on that money with our available land, we add on to build safari lodges, employ 90% women. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. You can breathe out and take your seat. Yes, thank you very much. I think we wanted to have this session just so we can be able to have a practical feel of what happens in some of those rooms. And Mercy, you've had these two stories, and they're only representative. I wish you could have more, but they're only representative. So if you could tell us what you pick from their stories, and maybe the articulation of impact, what could they do better, what do they need to emphasize, can you give them some money?
First of all, good job. I like the fact that the people that volunteer themselves to come on stage are actually women. So can we give them a round of applause, please? Great. I know it may be nerve-wracking sometimes, and so just to segue a bit. So they say for us women, if you see a job application, women, we are wired to think I need to hit 100% of what is required. But men are wired to think if I just have 60 to 70% of what is required, I can easily apply for that job. So it's the same scenario that I'm also seeing here. But back to the point. So for these two pitches, there's a couple of things that are missing. So, and I like the fact that you asked Irene what she was looking for, because otherwise, both of them would not have a call to action. Remember, if you're pitching, you have to include what your call to action is. Are you looking for mentorship? Are you looking for partnership? Are you looking for capital? Now, when it comes to capital, just to zero in on what Irene answered, I did not hear dollar value. I did not hear the instrument that you would prefer. And just to sort of dumb down my words a bit more, if you're looking for capital, you need to have known how much it is in dollar value or shillings. You need to tell me, Mercy, I'm looking for $100,000. I need it in equity. My most preferred instrument is equity, and this is the amount that I'm willing, or rather, this is the percentage that I'm willing to give out.
Sorry to cut you short. By equity, what do you mean?
Okay. So equity is, there's, you know, the way you have a limited company and then you have shares in the company. So if I am an equity investor, I come in and take a percentage of your business based on the value of your business. So you as an entrepreneur must have had a sit down with your team, discussed, looked through your financials if they're available, understood what the value of the business looks like before you actually, attach an equity or a valuation to your business and say, I'm willing to give 20%. Now, in East Africa, what we've seen, and this is just random, but there are outliers, but what we've seen is equity investors would usually take about 20 to 30% if they invest in businesses. Now, that's not a thumb rule, it's just what we've seen happening. No investor would come in and take majority of your shareholding. Of course, there are exceptions. So, and I can give you an example. For instance, an investor called Goja would come in and take, say, 51%. But mostly, they are around the 20 to 35% mark. So you need to sit down and understand how much your business is looking for. Now, from an entrepreneur's perspective, usually money is money. If you give me 1 million shillings, I'm happy. If you give me, 1 billion shillings, I'm happy. But there's also an element of, is your company or is your business able to absorb the capital you're asking for? So you can't go to an investor and say, I'm looking to raise $100,000, but your business cannot absorb $100,000. So there's already a mismatch there. Anyway, so back to the point, if you're pitching, you have to have a call to action. The second thing that I would have loved to hear, both these women sell themselves on, is the team and the skill. So you are both lovely women, you're experienced, but I did not hear that. So I need to, especially, and you need to understand, especially if you're an early stage company, investors would usually bet on the horse and not the jockey, or is it the other way around? You bet on the jockey and not the horse, meaning they would bet on your team. So traction, albeit traction, you might have a bit of traction here and there, and I'm glad that they both touched on the traction that the companies have. But you need to sell your team. You need to tell me, my team has an aggregate of 30 years experience. This is what we do. This is how we will utilize your money. You as the vision bearer of your company, you need to sell your vision a bit better. They both touched on the growth plan, which is great, but it would have been better if that was articulated and exacerbated just a bit more. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Mercy. I think our two ladies that came forth, I think we've got something to learn, to pick from that. And I think I'll request that maybe because I've had a chat with a few of my colleagues in the audience, and somebody was saying, okay, fine. For example, the theme for this year's celebration for the International Women's Day is gender equality today for a sustainable tomorrow. So it kind of merges the two ideas of gender and the element of sustainability. And somebody was posing a very interesting question, but I told him I'll request him to ask that question himself later on. So before we move to that, and it was behind the idea that this is gender and sustainability, but some businesses are tackling the gender element not directly, in the sense that maybe they are in agriculture or anything that is green related, but their businesses have capacity to absorb huge numbers of women to be involved. But I think that will be answered when the question comes through. So one of the interesting things that you've highlighted is what we need to do in terms of preparation for this. And I think, colleagues, if you will be able to ask more questions, we want to be able to engage you after hearing from Fiona again. But I think there's a bit of positioning, and that's what Mercy is trying to help us, be better at. But my other question to Mercy, if you could talk just a little bit more about this movement of environment, social, and governance, environmental and social governance, and in terms of investing or partnering with businesses in the market. So these discussions have been had, and we want to be able to know what does it take, to meet these three obligations. What are they about? Tell us a little bit more about the ESG.
Okay. So the ESG policy or lens of investment is where investors would consider the environmental, the social governance before deploying capital into your business. So it's actually become, especially with millennials now being employers themselves, it's become a thing, where a lot of, companies would look at sustainability before deploying capital into a business. So for instance, when a potential investor is looking at environment, it's how are you reducing the waste? They'd consider things like what she said earlier, how are you reducing the carbon footprint? Are you using green energy instead of fossil energy? So those are some of the metrics they would consider when evaluating your business. And sometimes it could not be all these things that you're using solar. It could be how you drop paper in your office, and that's one of the key. Sometimes entrepreneurs, we think these things are too up there for us to touch, whereas they're really things that are within us. So that's the environmental side of things. On the social side of things, a potential investor could be evaluating metrics such as your governance. Is your business gender lens positive? So it does not necessarily mean you have to employ women, but the business model or the product is geared towards, supporting women. It could mean things like, health policies and well-being. And I like a speaker earlier said that from Rebuild, they have, care for pregnant women, women with children, young kids. So it's the well-being of your potential customers or your employees even. So those are some of the social things that they would look at. And it could also mean, OSHA policies. And OSHA, I mean, like, do you have a hand sanitizer? With the times of COVID, are you giving people, masks, for instance? So those are some of the things that, a potential investor would consider on social. And then governance, of course, how's your board structured? How's your team looking like? Is it gender balanced or not? So those are some of the metrics, that an investor would look at.
Okay, thank you, Mercy. Now, I think over to the audience. I wanted to just ask by show of hands, how many of us feel, because there's three items, there's the environmental, the social, and then the governance issue. How many of us feel your business is more inclined towards the environmental than the others? More environmental than social and governance element? Any? Okay. How many of us feel the social bit is what you've been able to balance for the moment? Social, you're a little bit good there. And then the governance aspect, how many of us, and the rest of us, no ESG? Not at all? Okay. So, and this is something else that I also wanted to pick from what Mercy said. The element of equity. We have something in the Ugandan audience of fraternity about somebody else also owning my business. How many of us agree that's something contentious? About somebody else owning my business? No problem? No problem? There's an issue there. So I don't know what my dear panelists think about this. The idea of somebody else owning a business for the sake of money. Some people are not comfortable with other people owning their business or partly owning their businesses. What's your take on this, Mercy? And then before we get to Fiona.
I think there are bad fruits that have spoilt the basket for everyone. So there are a couple of investors that have done investments, equity investments, and they've not in Uganda, and they've not necessarily gone well for the entrepreneur. So there's been bad PR in that regard. But that's why, you know, people like Outbox or the Deal Flow facility exist to demystify all these myths about equity investing. So the thing that I would want to emphasize today is, before you take money, do you know who you're getting into bed with? So are you doing due diligence on an investor? So money is just not money. That's what I want to emphasize. Money is just not money. Do due diligence on who's giving you that money and where are they getting their money from. And over and above that, please read the fine print, because, you know, there are different terms in a term sheet, for instance, say control terms, where, you know, you're expected to give rights of first refusal, and I know I'm going too technical, but you're given, you know, boardship rights and whatnot. But that fine print is where you need to read and see in cases of an exit or at an exit scenario, meaning the investor wants to liquidate the investment, what happens? Are we exiting through the USC, the Uganda Stock Exchange? Are we exiting through a strategic investor coming in to buy the, you know, the shares? Am I buying back the shares? So you need to read the fine print in the term sheet to understand what you're actually signing your business to. So it's just not a matter of taking money, but it's a matter of understanding where is this investor getting their own money as well, and how has the experience of the portfolio companies been like. So if you find, you know, an investor deployed capital into a company and the exit scenario was not that rosy or that good, it's upon you as the entrepreneur to do your own due diligence. Trust me, no one will come and tell you, oh, don't take our money, because it's also their business to give you money. So you need two things: do due diligence on your investor, and then read the fine print. If possible, come to people like Outbox or DFF or you know, all these incubators around to help you read and understand what the terms are before you can be able to sign and negotiate. Please negotiate. The way you'd go to a market and negotiate, the same thing you would for an investment. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Mercy. And Mercy says money is not just money. Money is not just money. That's an interesting thing to think about. There's more beyond that comes to that. And as we do need money, Fiona, the economy is now open. I don't know how open, but it's open. So if the economy is now open, we are in the post-pandemic period, or probably at least beyond the lockdown or post-lockdown. What are some of the innovations that you think entrepreneurs should be able to place into their businesses for them to be able to ignite back and probably also access some funding? And this question is going to come to the audience as well. So please, as Fiona concludes, you need to be able to ponder on this. What should be done, or what strategies or what move should be done to ensure that female entrepreneurs get access to funding, or they unlock this funding block? Fiona.
Thank you so much. I'll first just address a little thing from Mercy. When you talk about equity, I like to think about it in terms of both a business person and also a business development services provider who is dealing with lots of SMEs, especially at startup. I think the when is also very important when you're talking about equity or even just looking for a partner. I see many people come and say, oh, I have this amazing idea, and then quickly they're looking for someone. When she talks about negotiation, when you don't have anything, you can't negotiate. So the other person who is coming on for equity, you are going on their terms. So it's very important as we think about equity. There's nothing wrong with equity, but at what stage are you? If you're a starting, I like the gentleman, I forget the name, Kabajo. Just start.
Chibajo.
Chibajo, just start. Start with what you have, as opposed to, hunting out for, investors when you haven't even tested the concept, so you have no bargaining power. So I just wanted to just add a little bit to that. Yes, adoption post-COVID, use of data. I think, we always talk about data. I'm using technology, but what does that even mean? Are you able to analyze the data that you have in terms of who are your customers? What do they want? What are the leads in terms of if you want to have operational growth for yourself? Are your processes in place? That is what we mean by using data. Actually using data to make decisions that are good for you as the company, decisions that are good for the staff, decisions that are good for, investors. I think those are some of the adoptions that we need to make. I think we also need to make, I don't know whether this is an innovation, but I like to say that as we get out of COVID, one of the things that our company tries to do is, really picked from a book I've been reading lately also, is perfection. There's very little competition at the top, very, very little. I will say it from the perspective of Uganda, and I have been a victim myself. We do so many things, but then you're doing so many things a little bit. You're doing a bit of coffee growing, then you have a banana plantation somewhere, then you have, I don't know, some venture with your girls. So you have a million and one things to do, but we are not perfect at anything. And then we're wondering why we're not getting the money in or why we're not getting the investors in, because we're not really good at that. So there's very little competition. So when they say there's a lot of competition, yes, but at the level of perfection. Are you the best at doing that ginger and it is good? Are you the best at doing that coffee and it is good? And you don't have to be the best. There's a lot of room. I keep saying the population keeps growing, so there's a lot of room out there. But in that which you're doing, so I don't know that that's an innovation. No, but if we have that slogan in ourselves, when you are talking to your client, we are BDS. We are constantly listening, constantly growing, constantly learning. What do the customers want? What has COVID taught us? Or are we stuck to, we're going back to the old era? So if we're able to have a culture of growth, I don't know if that's an innovation, but also use data to analyze what is happening in the environment, how is my business growing, why is it growing the way it is, why isn't it growing, why aren't investors coming to me, which investors are out there, do I need to do equity, all that use data to find out. And then finally, like I said, little room or little competition at perfection. If we can get to that, I believe that our businesses will grow post-COVID. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. The audience, this is your time. This is your time to shine with your questions. So please, if you do have a question, kindly raise your hand. I will ask Bob to help me reach out to the different people in the audience. It's ideal that you ask, a precise, specific question, and you may also detail to whom you're asking this question. Bob, we do have some hands. Okay, please.
Hi, this has been really insightful, and I have a lot to think about, rethink, and change. So my question is generally directed to just any of you. I need to understand, thinking about how Don talked about the theme for Women's Day and why we are all here. So how do you think we can deal with the internal barriers that we have as women that end up holding us back with the decisions, where we are, and generally what is happening? Thank you.
So what do you mean by internal barriers?
I could give an example of like society that we live in, stereotypes, bringing about self-esteem, focusing on what exactly we want to do, airing out our views, things like that.
Okay, thank you very much. There's a brother who had a question back there. Bob, the team, could you please help me move the microphone? There's a gentleman here. If you could start here, then we have some gentlemen in the room, for the same struggle, so.
Hello, I am Paul Tevin. I am the co-founder of MTS Media. I noticed something in this general space of funding, grants, and investing. Currently, we have 250,000 graduates every year in this country from all universities respectfully. And 400,000 of those are unemployed today, right now. That is 83% of the market, like people in this population who are unemployed, and a good portion of women inclusive. There's so many companies, startups, which have the potential to hire hundreds, if not thousands, per day, per month. But they're not in your sectors, not in the eco world, they're not in agriculture, and they're not capable of getting the funding. But they're very, vast with their expansion, with their ideas, but nobody's willing to fund them. Why? That goes to the general panel. I want to understand why aren't we able to grow some businesses, because there's no one supporting them, and they're very capable.
Okay. Okay, I think that's very clear. Yes, we have another question at the back. The microphone movement is taking more time than the question. Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much. My name is Julius Odiga. I'm the founder of Youth Initiative for Economic Transformation. You had Claire talk about Julius from Uganda. I'm the one. So I have a few submissions and concerns I would like to put across. Number one, I've had the panelists talking a few issues, but I feel they have not gone ahead to guide us in respect to diversification, because I believe if you are choosing an investment, the first panelist on this side talked about the Uganda Securities Exchange. So I believe there are various companies in the Uganda that are listed on the Uganda Securities Exchange, and each of those, when making up a portfolio to be able to set up for your investment, many of them belong to, they have different categories and industries they belong to. So to me, to entrepreneurs out there, I would ask that before you decide to choose which companies to invest in or to put in your money, you should be able to know under which industry or which sector do they all belong to. Then at least you make that diversification in that. You don't put all your eggs in one basket. In that case, I mean to say, if we have the banking sector, you have Stanbic Bank, Barclays Bank, you have Standard Chartered Bank. Then you have the manufacturing sector, where you have Uganda Clays, an example. And then you have the aviation industry, where you have Kenya Airways as listed there. So it would be wise enough for an investor to be able to put in your funds to at least the various industries or sectors, such that once one sector is hit, you don't suffer losses in all the in all the sectors that you would have. Like for example, I give an example of COVID-19
Julius,
situation.
let's try to keep it brief, Julius. From
Now, my
Uganda.
question is, as an entrepreneur, how would I balance diversification and innovation? That is my question. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. I request to keep it straight to the question so we can have as many questions as we possibly can.
Thank you very much. My name is Kum Shadafi. I would like to hear the opinion of the three ladies who are already established in business about two things. The first one is about the male involvement in business. How are we involving the men as women who are, as young women entrepreneurs, in three capacities: as partners, both as business partners and at-home partners, as parents and as donors. When female entrepreneurs are out there looking for donors or people to support their business, to give them startup capital, how do they deal about the mentality that the men have out there about women being in business? Number two is about your opinions about fellow women in business. It is a common thing that women are not very supportive of other women in business. They will want to pull each other down. As you ladies who are already established in business, how can we support one another to make sure that we change what society thinks about women who are already established in business. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I think we'll take about 2 more questions. If there is, then.
Thank you very much. My name is Bukira Halima. And my question is, okay, I would like to know your views on how inclusive, interoperable, and seamless digital payment solutions can be used to boost their businesses in Uganda. Are they even needed?
Sorry, come again.
I'd like to know, okay, your views on how digital payment solutions that are interoperable and seamless, how they can be used to boost the businesses in Uganda. Are they even needed?
Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Maureen, Gen Organics. My question is to Mercy. I'm a co-founder at Bringo Fresh, and I know that DFF, I've interacted with DFF before, so I know the facility that they offer may be a little bit bigger, so it may not be to startups. And my question is there any kind of support that you have in the pipeline to startups? Like NSSF said, most of the startups die at the, they don't scale, they don't grow. So is there support that DFF has looked at to startups like Gen Organics? Thank you.
Okay, all right. There's a lady there, then we'll have the gentleman come through here to I think, give us the final question, I believe.
Thank you very much, dear panelists. I think this is very insightful and helpful for those of us that are running startups. My name is Natasha. I am a co-founder at Wapi, a digital talent marketplace. Someone mentioned something about traction, and for you to be able to dig into the investors whose investment you're trying to seek before you get into there. And I would like to know from you, as already established ladies in business, when is the right time for a startup to start seeking investment, or when do you feel that my traction is good enough for me to start seeking investment, or when is the right time for me to believe that I am ready for all the other things that come with investment? For example, the things you mentioned about your business being partly owned by another person and things like that. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. The gentleman.
Thank you, the panelists. My name is Kenneth Meso, one of the co-founder of Dash, a DeFi service for remittances payment exchange. So my question to Mercy is, it's about the startups that go through a lot of incubations, others go through a lot of training, but then getting funding is too hard for them. So, and reaches at the level of the investors, all these VC funds, firms asking for the traction, yet even the prototypes or the MVPs require money, of which money is not accessible or not acquirable to them. So what other alternatives can this VC consider for these startups in case of funding or giving funds to these startups? Another thing about the equity thing, like most of these VC, at times they ask a lot of equity, and yet most of the startups, we do not have knowledge about the equity. So we end up getting excited. In the end, we having the business progressing, like we are not the one gaining, it's them gaining. So how best can you go about the equity thing? And also like in the environment we are living in, when you apply to most of the VCs in other countries, they talk about the jurisdictions here in Uganda. What went wrong to us here in Uganda? Like, why can't they fund us? What's the issue? Because we are seeing other countries are progressing, Kenya, Nigeria, they're being funded by, So what's the problem here in Uganda? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we'll dig straight into the responses to the same. Our time is fast spent. I've been informed by Bob. Bob, it's upon you to decide if we have some more time to take that question. We don't. Unfortunately, our time is fast spent. But what my colleague talks of, and he calls the equity thing, it's important that we have some responses to that. I think I'll start with Farida. I'll ask Farida to give responses to the same. Then we'll have Fiona and Mercy. You will give us conclusions on some of these questions. Yeah, you can pick what you aligns best with you.
Sure. So I'll respond to a question about how do we handle, say, stereotypes or challenges as an entrepreneur, and say more so as a woman entrepreneur. I mean, the one thing, there's not one, but support system. And so you see, and you can define what that support system is. For some people, it's their partner, say your husband. If he hears your ideas out, then, you know, throughout your journey, you see a lot of progress. For other people, it's your friends, your family. You need validation from them. So define that support system for you and see that you use it. So for some people, they're not able to recognize what that support system is. So I guess it's time and see who can support me on this journey, who's on my side, and then go to them. You're not bothering anybody. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Over to you, Fiona.
Okay, thank you. So I will just highlight very briefly on a few points. Dealing with internal barriers, I like to believe that internal barriers indeed is internal barriers, right? It is in our minds. Of course, in the workplace, for the leaders to ensure that that internal barrier is not validated in terms of, you know, giving out roles, or even pointing out who is able to do what, stereotyping in terms of who can do, you know, a particular task. As long as the task is given, it's neither male or female, it is who is best at doing that. So I think leadership can help a lot in addressing the internal barriers, but I believe it starts with us as the women. No one is going to stand up and say, hey, Fiona, go and sit, I don't know, at the front. So women, you come, you sit at the back, and then no man is going, the men come and sit at the front. What's going to happen? So I think the internal barrier is indeed that. So we need to address it on our own. Quickly moving to why aren't people able to fund startups? Well, Mercy will throw a technical feed onto that. I mean, investors' money is their money, which they have saved, so I think they're also very conscious on that. I do not believe it is because they do not want to invest, but they want to also, in many cases, what you'd call proof of concept. Is that your idea valid, and can it be sustainable in terms of can it make money? I think that's why people desist from investing in startups at the very beginning. So what Mercy was saying, is your business sustainable? Are you able to make money? And you might not have been able to make the money now, but can you, do your projections show that you'll make money at time X? So I think if you're able to show that, businesses, or rather investors, will be able and willing to invest in your business, and then that will you know, work for you. It is important that we do invest in startups, but they have to also prove that this business will make money. Unfortunately, we are also in a generation where there's so much, I don't want to say it in a bad way, like begging, but we're asking for money all the time for everything. We don't want to save and use our own money, but you want to use someone else's money. So also try and use your own money so that you're showing the investor that, hey, I'm also risking my money. Come and join me and invest in this venture. I think, yeah, I will also speak to Komjisha, who talked about male involvement and partners. But I'll speak to the question of how do women support each other in business. Again, it's really up to us. One of the questions that was asked earlier is, what is the strategy for growth? I think strategy for growth post-COVID is partnerships. I believe in partnerships. I think Patrick mentioned it, you cannot go far if you're alone. So who are you partnering with? Of course, you need to know that you understand the person with whom you're partnering. So fellow women can support each other by doing partnerships. If I am doing BDS and she is in processing and she knows somebody who she wants to grow her business, then she can partner with me and we can offer, it doesn't have to be competing services, but we can complement each other. That way you are growing each other's businesses. So let us learn to network. Women, we are very fond of networking, I don't know, over tea, and you just talk about your children. It's a good thing to talk about children. I have children. However, are you able to talk about your businesses and what it is that in terms of service and product that you're offering? And that is how we support each other, by talking about our businesses and being able to support each other. And finally, I will talk about Maureen, support for startups so they do not die. I think it was really that. How do you support startups so they do not die? I think Mercy will throw, again, technical light on that, but I think the spaces like, Outbox, they might not even give cash all the time, but giving you the technical ability in terms of business support. I do a lot of business support training, and one of the first questions that happens, especially when I'm training on behalf of a banking institute, is, oh, are they going to give us money? But let me tell you, by the time we finish the training, most of the people are saying, okay, they realize the money is there. However, they were not even ready for the money. If they said, oh, he has 100 million there in his bag, how many of you are able to take that money, meaning in your processes, in your preparedness, in your financials? You know what she said? How many of us are ready today to take 100 million shillings in your business, absorb it, use it for the right purposes? So again, I think partners like Outbox can help us to build our processes so that we are in a position to not die and also be ready for the money. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fiona. Great highlights there. I think, Mercy, you'll give us this conclusive bit for a number of the questions, since some of them were rather technical on investment. And please, the bit on equity, what my brother called the equity thing. We want to be able to understand it better through you.
I think I like what she said, and I'll just pick up from that. How come, startups are not able to raise financing, and the ones that do maybe sometimes die? I think it's a combination of factors. So for instance, when to raise capital and who you're raising capital from. More often than not, we see companies that just recently started, maybe they have 6 months in operation, but then they come to a PE. They would go to a Pearl Capital, for instance. Now, Pearl targets growth stage companies, but you're a startup and you go to them seeking for financing. Of course, they'll turn you down because you don't fit the investment criteria. So to your point on you keep going to investors and going to investors, but they keep turning you down, are you targeting the right investors? So what we usually, and this is not thumb rule, but what we've seen work in the market is if you're in the startup phase, raise financing from family, friends, and fools. After they give you the money, then graduate to angel investors. After they give you their money, approach a VC. After they give you their money, approach a PE. So it needs to be a graduated journey or a graduated process that you're taking through your company. So you can't wake up one day, and of course there's exceptions to the rules, don't get me wrong, but you can't wake up one day and decide, I have an idea, let me go to a VC. For sure they won't fund you. And going to incubators, it honestly does not help you if you, as the business, are not implementing what you're getting from the incubator. Going to an incubator is one thing, finishing a cohort is another thing, but if you're not able to implement what they've told you, so for instance, packaging, you clearly know as a business, packaging is my problem. You for sure do not need an incubator to tell you packaging is your problem. You need an incubator to tell you this is how you fix your numbers or this is how you do your reporting, but not how you package your product. So I think there's different things that you can pull out from an incubator to get the tangible, the tangible outcomes and outputs that you'd want. And incubators are actually a very good place to start when you're looking for financing at a startup phase. Because they would have networks. Say angel investors that deploy capital in Uganda that can be able to fund your business at that early stage. So, and there's a lot of investors that target early stage companies. And back to the point that someone made earlier, why is Uganda not getting more traction compared to countries like Kenya and Nigeria? That is true. I think in 2020, Uganda was fourth behind Kenya, Nigeria, and Rwanda in terms of the deal size and the number of deals that were happening in the country. But in 2020, that has since shifted. So Uganda is now third. Yeah, so in East Africa. So Uganda is now third after Kenya and Rwanda. So that tells you things are moving in the right direction. But of course, this is fueled by very specific deals. So for instance, Tugende or ASAC, so it's fueled by specific deals, but we are missing the startup phase in that traction. So we did a feasibility study before we actually launched the deal flow facility. And one of the outcomes of that study was investors, unfortunately, consider Uganda as a market to be very risky in terms of deploying capital. What do I mean by that? We have amazing businesses that can be able to absorb capital. However, most of the, well, not most, but the companies that are doing good in Uganda are unfortunately informal. So you hear a company is actually making revenues in the millions, but when you go and ask for their audited financials, they don't have it. So an investor who sits somewhere, or the investment committee sits somewhere in Europe, they don't want to know, they don't want to know that, this company is known, it has a local brand presence in Uganda. What they want to see is, are your books audited, and can I be able to rely on the auditors that have audited your books? So which is why the facilities like, again, deal flow, sorry to belabor, were set up to try and formalize that, business, or formalize the businesses that are in Uganda that can be able to absorb these amounts of capital. And to a question that was asked earlier, the deal flow facility indeed supports company or looks for pipeline of companies that are able to absorb $500,000 upwards. Maybe that can be a handful of the entrepreneurs in this room, but not all is lost. The reason we set up the facility is we didn't want to thin out the market that is already existing in early stage or startup support phase. So people like Outbox, people like Finding XY, I heard someone earlier say Innovation Village. There's a plethora of people that can be able to support, or consultancy firms that can be able to support companies in the early stage. So why do we want to replicate their efforts and reinvent the wheel, whereas we can have a new wheel, So the reason we were set up is so that such accelerators, incubators can feed their pipeline to ours, so that we are not replicating effort. There's a continuum of sorts. So you come into an Outbox, and hopefully you're exiting to a DFF, and hopefully you're exiting to, a stock exchange, something like that. And I know I've not touched on a lot of points, but I think it's really important for us, if not for anything, understand what your stage is and what capital best suits the company that you're running.
All right, thank you very much. A round of applause to our panelists, please. Yes, thank you very much. It's been very insightful, informative. I know that there are some questions that have not been fully exhausted, but our panelists are still here with us, and I would like to ask you and call upon you to approach them personally. Otherwise, it's been an honor, and thanks to the organizers, all our partners. It's such a great learning opportunity. So thanks to Fiona, Farida, and Mercy. It's been a pleasure. And thanks to you, the audience. So I'd like to invite Bob. Oh, Bob is on a phone call. Aisha. I'd like to invite Aisha to guide us through our next program. Yes, Bob, if you are present. I think our panelists, we can now take our seats. Over to you, Bob.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you, Don. A round of applause to them. That was not energetic. But Jens, awesome. I wish I could recount what I've listened to, but it's a lot, and I cannot repeat everything I've listened to. So we just have about 10 minutes, then we close off the day. I go for lunch, and that will be a wrap. We'll be out for the weekend. So allow me to invite our last two spotlight speakers. They will share with us their amazing journeys as well. And we'll start with Henry. Henry, wherever you are, the floor is yours. Henry is an amazing entrepreneur, burst through the IRC program of Rebuild, and would love to hear his interesting journey to date. Henry, wherever you are, you're welcome.
Good afternoon. Yeah, it is nice to be here. I really thank the organizers for organizing such an event. My name is Henry Ntikarahela Lievin. My story is a little bit different, though not so different. Why and how? To begin with, I am a refugee from Burundi who became a refugee at a tender age of 13. That's why I moved to Uganda as a refugee. It has not been easy as an urban refugee, because first of all, I never bought the idea of going to the settlement. Being that I was so much into music and so other things, so the settlement, it was not an idea for me. I had to struggle to find the way in Kampala. It was not all that easy. First of all, I was homeless. I had no parents here and all those kind of things. We were 3 boys. I think I was among the first refugee miners in Uganda with my 3 friends whom we became like strong brothers, I can say. Though one of them now is in the US, he has opted to go for resettlement, and another one is in Kampala here. It was not easy. The offices, the refugee offices would not do a lot, however much they could support with the little that they had, but it was not enough. It could be enough, as you know. And as me, I could not sit there and be comfortable going to seek for support from an organization they don't have. Then you feel frustrated. Then you start, putting ropes. Like I was like, however much I'm young, but I can do something. Now, in the course of my struggle, here comes Ibra. I met Ibra. Ibra is a Tanzanian from Arusha who became a brother to me. Then together with him, we formed Black Members. Black Members Inc., this is, we so much do hip-hop music. And from music, we moved to entrepreneurship in other fields. I met Ibra at Sabrina's Pub. By then, he was a student at Nsambia Secondary School. We used to go at Sabrina's Pub for hip-hop night. Here comes, I met a number of people, I can't even mention their names yet. So with Ibra, we sat together one day. What can we do? Financing the music needs money. Now, me also, being that I was a refugee with nowhere to stay, time came that I had to go to the settlement. Kampala became tough for me. I was still a member of the Catholic Church because I'm a strong Catholic. I was praying from St. Matia Mulumba, and I was the chairperson of the altar boys. Now, here comes a letter from UNHCR to relocate me to the settlement. This was Naki Valley. I had no option. I had nowhere to stay. Ibra was still a student with the little money that he had as pocket money. It could not cater for both of us. I was like, yes, he's a brother, but I have to reduce a little bit of a burden to him. Now, I informed my members of the church that I'm moving from Kampala to Naki Valley. They made some little bit contributions for me, and these other 2 brothers. We went to Naki Valley for 1 month, but things were not tough. Things were so tough. Here is the little man that they gave me. I could not sit there still, because yes, WFP gives some food. For me, it was not enough, and I could not sit. So I started struggling, hustling, entering deep into Isingiro's villages, buying matoke with a little balance that I remained with from these people. Selling matoke, buying beans, dry beans, and I sell to fellow refugees for this 1 month that I spent in Naki Valley. After a while, I had a reasonable amount of money from this small business that I was doing. Then I told my 2 other brothers, guys, we can go back to Kampala and start from there. Since Kampala, at least for us, we can do something in Kampala. We cannot remain here. We agreed, then we traveled back to Kampala, even without the camp commandant's movement permit. Here we are back to Kampala. Tomorrow they say at the office, hey, you guys, you've come back. We are taking you back to northern Uganda. We said, no, we do not need your support. So that's how we started struggling. I had to start going to northern Uganda. I had someone who knew Lira. I could buy some, because I was already used with agricultural produce. I could go there, buy some, bring to Kampala, sell, in order for me to sponsor, to finance my music, because hip-hop was life for me. Hip-hop music, I was like, you either give me hip-hop or you give me death. So from there, I began my journey with Ibra. Still could go to Sabina's pub, do music, get a little bit of money. Now, here comes other young refugees that I met at Sabina's pub. They had still challenges like I had before. We started talking. From talking, guys have nowhere to stay. I had rented a small room in Zambia. We moved together with the guys. Now, later on, I discovered that these guys had talent. Some of them were playing guitars, others were playing piano. Now, from here, we formed a band, which ended up being a Together Live Band, a very strong band that plays in different occasions in Kampala. Now, from this, we said, no, we cannot stop here because, after all, we need to survive. From this band, we started creating other innovations. We opened up a small bar because we knew with music, where you have to play it is from a bar. We opened up a small bar as a joint bar with these friends. From there, we opened up another restaurant, and we named it Black Members Food Hub. Now, with Black Members Food Hub, we do a lot of things. We do deliveries, from roasting, grills, bites, and we deliver. Those that want to come and eat from there, they still come and eat. Now, with now a rebuilt program, we have done a lot of youth engagement through different activities like music, like entertainment, and drama to make sure that youth can do something to survive, to sustain themselves in Kampala. Given that, first of all, for refugees to be in the urban, we know that there is urban policy, which is not easy. Like for you, in order to stay in Kampala, you have to sustain yourself. What do? You have to create something that can give you income in order for you to survive. What we do for us as Black members, we do not normally focus on refugees because we have the host community. We have Ugandans who have been so close to us as brothers. They have given us a lot. We employ 50% Ugandans, refugees. At our bar, we have a number of Ugandans, we have a number of refugees. Still the same, even in our band now, we have also welcomed Ugandans and the refugees. We do this to promote peace and peaceful coexistence among refugees and the host community. It is not an easy way, but we are making sure to see that things go smooth for both, because we have encountered a number of vulnerable Ugandans. That's why at the beginning I said, mine is a little bit different, though not different. I might be a refugee, but there is a Ugandan who suffers the same way I suffer. So it is now time not to think as a refugee. Yes, you are a refugee, you're not in your country, but do not be there, say, because I'm a refugee, I cannot do anything. The same way Ugandan is doing, you can still do it. And more so that even the Ugandan refugee policies, allow me to say that they are the best in the world so far. A refugee in Uganda is allowed to live the same way a Ugandan is living in Uganda. Thank you.
Thank you, Henry. If all of you could wear the same smile she's wearing, the place would be a little lighter. A round of applause to Henry. Guys, are you saying I've not given out food coupons? A round of applause to Henry. Perfect. Now, before we listen into Sandra, allow me invite Rahma. She's our program lead for the EDU program at Outbox. We have an amazing digital program that she's going to talk about that has been designed specifically for ladies, and I would like her to take this opportunity to share it.
Hello, everyone. It's very nice to see such enterprising ladies. Actually, I get very excited when I'm in such spaces. Thank you, Bob, for creating for me this time. I'm called Rahma Nampala, and I work at Outbox. I I won't repeat the introduction because Bob did a great job. I would like to tell you about a lady called Zipporah. This is a person that started hair braiding and selling wigs right before COVID hit. So she had a full-time job, which ended at the same time COVID started. And she put all her money into the wig business. So Zipporah found herself stranded. COVID is there. Women are no longer mindful about their hair. All her money is into the business, and she was stranded. But luckily for her, she joined an Outbox EDU program that we were running. And this program was specifically designed for women founders, that is, women that own businesses. The program was strictly talking about digital, because as we all know, at the time COVID hit, a lot of businesses hadn't yet embraced digital. So Zipporah joined the EDU program, and by the time she was done with week 2, she had her pages off the ground. And instead of telling women that, oh, come and buy my wigs, she was now telling women, this is how you can deal with your hair, your home. You're not going any places because we are all in lockdown, but you can still do a lot. Let's look at hair products. Let's look at how can you style your business. How can you still look good? How can you feel good? Because COVID will end, but you want to come back looking fresh. So Zipporah got a very large following on her pages because she was now talking about something relevant. And she was only able to do that because she came to Outbox and attended the program that we were running. So what I am telling you about is Outbox EDU, our e-business masterclass. Not only that, we also have coding boot camps, where we still have a very, very big focus on women, because women in the tech space are still few. It's a space that is still mainly dominated by men, and how we've tried to increase women in the space is by offering scholarships, not just full scholarships, but half scholarships as well, and going an extra mile by getting them placements in employment. So do take a look at the products and services that Outbox has. Outbox EDU has great programs for women entrepreneurs, and you could actually benefit a lot. For one, we'll be running an e-business bootcamp starting April 4th, and it will just be a 10 weeks program. And this is going to help you get your business from the stage you're at to how can I then prepare to approach, say, Mercy. How am I going to get myself ready to receive capital? Come and build confidence with us. Yes, so just allow me. I will share a bit more. But I will just get your emails and send you a bit more about our programs, and you can apply, or even better, recommend a friend that you feel would benefit from these. Bob, thank you so much for the time.
Thank you very much for those insights. And finally, as we come to the end, I take this honor to invite Sandra Ejang to give us the last, when you get hungry, the last spotlight. She's our last spotlight speaker. Sandra, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Aisha. Thank you, everyone, and hi again. My name is Sandra Ejang Elobu. I inherited the Elobu name. It's my husband's name. A very amazing human being. Um, I had to say that because when we had the panelists up here, there were questions about support, especially for women in business. I say he's amazing because he's my biggest cheerleader. If I walked up to him today and I told him I want to go to the moon, there's a business opportunity, he'll ask me, what do you need? So, yes, he's that kind of person. My business is called Western Silk Road, and I have two main brands under Western Silk Road. I have Asali Wamoyo, which is the honey brand, and I have Aza Naturals, which is a honey-based cosmetics brand. Under Asali Wamoyo, we work with rural households. We have a network of over 1,000, and I hope that by next week, Friday, we'll have over 1,500 rural households that we work with countrywide. So because of that, we also package our honey according to the areas that the honey is from. This is because we have to stand out of the, we have to stand out from the competition. We all know that the honey market is extremely saturated. So this has set us apart, but it's also because the taste and the color of honey is dependent on what the bees feed on. I could go on about this for like a whole day. So I'll move forward. Asali Wamoyo is not honey from Moyo. That is what most people think. Asali Wamoyo is Swahili for honey of the heart. But in this scenario, it's actually literally translated as sweetheart. So sweetheart honey. I had to say that because the next time you see us on the shelves, I hope you get to pick a jar. I mainly live by two mantras. One of them is failure is not an option. And the second one is I want it all and I would like it delivered. As a woman in business, or as women in business, we have a lot of challenges that we go through daily. When the first speaker, the NSSF person, whose name I don't remember, when he put up the thingy about the daily life, a day in the life of an entrepreneur, I related so well to it because I wake up every morning and I'm like, yes, this is going to be the best day ever. I'm going to make so many sales. And by lunchtime, I do not want to take any phone calls. I don't want to talk to people. By evening, I want to give my children away, including my husband. And then I wake up in the morning and I'm like, yes, this is going to be the best day ever. So with some alterations in the middle somewhere there. That being said, the challenges of women in business. Number one, URA. I don't know if it's just me. I feel like URA is just out to make us fail. And I know they have to do their jobs. For example, if you supply places like supermarkets, the supermarket is not going to accept your product without an EFRIS invoice. Once URA gets that invoice, they're just thinking money, and at the end of the month, they actually expect you to pay. The supermarket, on the other hand, is not going to pay for products they have not sold. How does an entrepreneur navigate this? And I hope that we have people that talk to these URA guys and they're going to help us navigate some of these things. The second one is UNBS. For people that have products that need to be certified, dried fruits, honey, cosmetics. For a small business, do you know how much it costs to just get one product certified? Close to 2 million shillings. How many small businesses actually have close to 2 million shillings to just put on certification? You'd find that this the 2 million shillings could actually be used to grow the business. So I think that they should revise some of these things. We're supposed to talk about, the theme for Women's Day this year is supposed to be affordable financing, and sustainable enterprises. For most women, and some of us might be luckier than others, for most women, banks are actually not going to give you a loan because you don't have anything to guarantee the loan. Banks need land, I don't know, things. I've never gotten a loan from the bank, so I don't really know, but I hear they need things like land titles that women don't have access to, but men do. We have, and most times also, maybe they don't trust us as businesswomen because most people start businesses just to maybe take care of the everyday needs. We don't, like, you'll find somebody say packaging honey, and there's no growth in the long, there's no growth basically. They just want to package honey. If I can sell this honey today and I'm able to put food on the table, I'll do the same thing tomorrow. I really think we need to change that kind of mentality and maybe, I don't know, think sustainably. If working with other beekeepers in the villages like I do is what is going to make it sustainable, let's do that. And most of the businesses really are built, well, they work best with partnerships. Without partnerships, you can't go very far. My partnership with the beekeepers, I'm telling you, they are the only reason I am still in business. Without them, I would have probably failed by now. And women, sometimes we limit ourselves. I remember I had a pitching competition, and I had a 9-day-old baby. I was called at 9 a.m. and I was told to be somewhere at 2 p.m. I carried my baby and I went with him, and some of the panelists or the interviewers were actually babysitting. Now, I know a lot of women who would say things like, I have a 9-day-old baby, I can't do that. Actually, somebody asked me, how did your husband allow you to go? What does my husband have to do with the interview? I know some people will say, oh, she's a big-headed woman. I've also heard that a lot. But at the end of the day, it's a baby. Life goes on after having the baby. I mean, if I was in labor, and I'm not saying I would not have gone for the interview, I probably would have, but you see, life has to go on even after the baby. That baby is going to come, you'll wake up the next day, there'll be bills, and they will have to be paid one way or another. So you're not showing up, number one, shows you're inconsistent. You guys, and I kid you not, if I had to, I don't know, I've also taken my 3-week-old baby for an interview in Nairobi, and I had a lot of strange stares from people. I've left a 6-week-old baby at home with my nanny so I could go for another meeting. It's things like that. It's not that I don't care for them. I care for them, but the business also has to survive one way or another. Let us be consistent. Let us be people that can be depended on. And yeah, let us not let the babies be our reason to miss out on good opportunities. I also won, by the way, I think it was maybe my good luck charm, that pitch that I went to with the baby, I actually won. I think I'm done. Thank you. Yes, the honey. We have a stall in that corner. Come and buy some honey and other amazing products. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sandra. A round of applause for her one more time. And I'm a customer of hers. I can tell you for a fact, okay, I'm not a customer, but someone I stay with is a customer. She's consumed her product. I think it's for the lips. Yeah, that one for the lips, eh? It's made of something very special. So please go support her business. It's a truly Ugandan business. Bubu. All right, so we are done with the day. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. So we have 2 more things left. And these are the things everyone loves the most. One is food. With the food coupon you have, Outside there, as you move out, they'll show you how to get your food. For those who don't have coupons, don't worry. I'm coming to you. At least I know everyone who doesn't have a coupon, so I'll come to you. And then the second activity is, in case you need photos of you taken, stick around, just come in front here or outside there, and our photography team will be happy to take a few photos of you, and we'll share a link with you where the photos will be in a few days, because it will take a couple of hours to edit the photos. So maybe by Wednesday, the photos will be ready for public consumptions. Otherwise, thank you so much for coming. We appreciate each and every one of you for creating time. Enjoy the day, enjoy your weekend.